pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And please remain standing at this time for a moment of silence and reflection for the victims of the terrible tragedy in Las Vegas and those who are suffering in Puerto Rico, Florida, and Texas from the natural disasters that have hit those areas in recent weeks, and the islands of the Caribbean. Thank you all very much. Madam Clerk, the call roll.
Supervisor Santino.
Here.
Councilman Eversino.
Here.
Councilman Blakeman.
Here.
Councilman Diaz-Pasito.
Here.
Councilman Dunn.
Here.
Councilman Magusky. Councilman King Sweeney.
At this time, I would like the record to reflect that the town clerk is delivering a copy of the tentative budget to each town board member. Call the first public hearing, please.
Petition of Commissioner of Buildings to demolish and remove the two-story wood frame, one-family dwelling with detached garage and remove all litter and debris from property in East Rockaway.
Is there anyone who would like to be heard on this matter before the town board? There being none, I'll accept the motion, please.
Supervisor, I move that the public hearing be closed and the petition is granted.
Supervisor Santino.
Aye.
Councilman Eversino. Councilman Blakeman. Councilman Diaz-Pasito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Councilman Magusky. Councilwoman King Sweeney.
Next item, please.
Petition of Commissioner of Buildings to demolish and remove the two-story wood frame, one-family dwelling and remove all litter and debris from property in Uniondale.
Is there anyone who would like to be heard before the town board on this matter? There being none, I'll accept the motion, please.
I move that the petition be granted.
Second.
Supervisor Santino.
Aye.
Councilman Eversino. Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Diaz-Pasito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Councilman Magusky.
Aye.
Councilman King Sweeney.
Next item, please.
Petition of Commissioner of Buildings to demolish and remove the in-ground swimming pool and remove all litter and debris from property in Valley Stream.
Is there anyone who would like to be heard on this matter before the town board? Being none, I'll accept the motion, please.
I move that the petition be adopted.
Second.
Supervisor Santino.
Aye.
Councilman Eversino. Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Diaz-Pasito. Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Councilman Magusky.
Aye.
Councilman King Sweeney.
Next item, please.
Proposed local law regarding regulations and restrictions to limit parking in Merrick.
Is there anyone who would like to be heard on this matter before the town board? There being none, I'll accept the motion, please.
Second.
Supervisor Santino.
Aye.
Councilman Eversino. Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Diaz-Pasito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Councilman Magusky.
Aye.
Councilman King Sweeney.
Next item, please.
Proposed local law regarding parking or standing prohibitions in Belmore, Merrick, Roosevelt, and Uniondale.
Is there anyone who would like to be heard on any of these matters before the town board? There being none, I'll accept the motion, please.
I move to close the public hearing and adopt the item.
Second motion?
Supervisor Santino.
Aye.
Councilman Eversino. Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Diaz-Pasito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Councilman Councilman Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilman King Sweeney.
Next item, please.
Proposed local law regarding arterial stops in Inwood and West Hempstead.
Is there anyone who'd like to be heard before the town board on this matter? Being none, I'll accept the motion.
I move that the hearing be closed and the local law adopted.
Supervisor Santino.
Aye.
Councilman Ambrosino. Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Diaz-Pasito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Councilman Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilman King Sweeney.
Next item, please.
Proposed local law regarding traffic regulations in the vicinity of schools in Inwood.
Is there anyone who would like to be heard on this matter before the town board? There being none, I'll accept the motion, please.
I move that the hearing be closed and the local law adopted.
Second.
Supervisor Santino.
Aye.
Councilman Ambrosino. Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Diaz-Pasito. Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Councilman Gooseby. Councilman King Sweeney.
Aye.
Next item, please.
Proposed local law regarding loading zones in Roosevelt.
Is there anyone who'd like to be heard on this matter before the town board? There being none, I'll accept the motion, please.
I move that the public hearing be closed and proposed local law be adopted.
Second.
Supervisor Santino.
Aye.
Councilman Ambrosino. Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Diaz-Pasito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Councilman Gooseby. Councilman King Sweeney.
Next item, please.
Proposed local law regarding gross weight restrictions in Westbury.
Is there anyone who would like to be heard on this matter before the town board? Being none, I'll accept the motion, please.
Move the public hearing be closed and the local law adopted. Second.
Supervisor Santino.
Aye.
Councilman Ambrosino. Councilman Blakeman. Councilman Diaz-Pasito. Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gooseby. Councilman King Sweeney.
Aye.
Next item, please.
Proposed local law regarding school speed limits in Lido Beach.
Is there anyone who would like to be heard on this matter before the town board? Being none, can I have a motion, please?
I move to close the public hearing and adopt the item.
Second.
Supervisor Santino.
Aye.
Councilman Ambrosino. Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Diaz-Pasito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Councilman Gooseby. Councilman King Sweeney.
Aye.
Next item, please.
Proposed local law regarding lowering the permitted time to replace a highway or walkway, pavement, curb, or gutter in the town of Hempstead.
Is there anyone who would like to be heard before this matter before the town board?
Yes, Supervisor. Could someone explain to us exactly the purpose of this local law and why we are considering it today?
Mr. Muller?
The town has received calls from people that are complaining that the utilities are getting too long. So they come to the streets, they open up the potholes, and then take too long to repair. So what the town is seeking to do is, in a way, is that there's three things. And I don't know if you want to call this with the next item as well, because it works in conjunction. But what it is that we reached out to the Commissioner of Highways. What he said was, well, we try to also contact the utility, to have the utility come and repair it. So I thought there was a three-way to incentivize the way of the repairs. One would be that we would deny them further permits if they had outstanding repairs that they had not done yet. Because again, several residents complained that the utilities were not repairing the leftover work. The second, so basically, in writing, the Commissioner of Highways would be empowered to say, we're not giving you new permits until you clear up the damage to the streets you've already made. The second thing that we did is under the current code, you have a year. The town, if you don't repair within a year, the town can use that commercial ground to repair. We go back to 30 days, again, to incentivize the repair by the utility of any road work that they've done. And the last thing that we've done is, and I have an amendment, if I can just read that, 175.5D. Currently, it's that they have to begin work within 30 days and do the repair within 90 days. So they have 120 days of having something in the street. When I first drafted it, and in conjunction with the Highway Department, we did a 30 days from the date of permit to the work being done, and then another 30 days for them to repair.
We thought it would be easier to administer, if I can read my amendment, that under 175-5D, work must commence within and be satisfactorily restored within 60 days of the issuance of a permit unless otherwise extended in writing by the Highway Department for good cause. And I think the way the Commissioner and I discussed it would be good cause would be for whether, or if it was part of a larger project, that they physically just couldn't do it. But that's basically it.
Two questions. First of all, I think it's a good idea to get the utilities to come back, because sometimes, like you said, they disappear. But I'm wondering whether or not there is, other than the discretion of the highway commissioner, whether there's any mechanism in here for automatic granting of a permit in the case of an emergency, like you said, hurricane, some kind of power failure, some kind of substation issue. And my second question is, do these both comply with New York State law?
They do. They do. And also, one of the things we do not do, if you look at what empowers the commissioner, that's still basically, the code has an emergency provision where if they have to go out, let's say in the middle of the night, they can contact us, they can go repair it, and then they can notify the buildings commissioner. They wouldn't run afoul of this, because it still has an exception built in that the current emergency provision is still in it. So it doesn't affect that.
Good, thanks.
Are there any other questions?
Great idea, because I've had so many people tell me about potholes that are being left by PSEG or any company that comes in and tear up the street. So thank you, I've read it already, and I think it's a great idea.
Thank you, Senior Counsel. Any other members of the audience, the board on this item? If not, on the motion, please.
Supervisor, as someone who's had these issues, definitely in Island Park, on the ride on Oceanside, I move that the public hearing be closed and we vote to walk out.
Second motion.
Supervisor Santino.
Aye.
Councilman Ambrosino.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Diaz-Pasito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Councilman Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilman King Sweeney.
Next item, please.
Local law regarding empowering the Commissioner of Highways to deny any application for a permit to excavate a highway or sidewalk, pavement, curb, or gutter. The applicant has not completed the repairs on their prior permitted excavations within the town of Hempstead.
Is there anyone who would like to speak on this matter? Now, I'll accept the motion, please.
Supervisor, I move that the public hearing be closed and the proposed local law adopted.
Supervisor Santino.
Aye.
Councilman Ambrosino. Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Diaz-Pasito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Councilman Gooseby. Councilman King Sweeney.
Next item, please.
Proposed handicap parking on public streets in Baldwin, Elmont, Franklin Square, Merritt, North Valley Street, and Montauk.
Is there anyone who would like to be heard on this matter before the town board? Being none, accept the motion, please.
I move that the hearing be closed and that the regulations be adopted.
Second motion.
Supervisor Santino.
Aye.
Councilman Ambrosino.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Diaz-Pasito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Councilman Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilman King Sweeney.
Next item, please.
Proposed handicap parking on public streets in Atlantic Beach, Baldwin, Elmont, Inwood, Lawrence, Merrick, and Roswell.
Is there anyone who would like to be heard on this matter before the town board? Being none, I'll accept the motion, please.
I move that the hearing be closed and the regulations adopted.
I second the motion.
Supervisor Santino.
Aye.
Councilman Ambrosino. Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Diaz-Pasito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Councilman Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilman King Sweeney.
Next item, please.
Application of Ekram Singh Khatri for a variance from provisions of GSS ordinance to convert 3 service bays into a convenience store and waive off street parking in North Woodmere.
Good morning, Supervisor Santino, members of the board. For the applicant, Thomas McKevitt, Son Ward Casciano, 333 Earl Bolton Boulevard, Uniondale, New York.
This is actually a premises located at 928 Rosedale Road in Valley Stream. It's also sometimes considered to be North Woodmere. This premise has been the site of a gasoline service station for approximately 40 years. The current operator has been in control of the site since 1995, and it is currently used as a Shell station. In 1988, the site was incorporated into the gasoline service station district of the town of Hempstead. At one time, there were 3 automotive repair bays. The application we come to this board for today is to convert those repair bays into a convenience store. Currently, one of those bays has already been converted into a convenience store. The application today is to convert the other 2 bays into a convenience store. If this application is granted, there will no longer be any automotive repair at the premises, which is currently existing at this point. I do photographs to the board just indicating the site and what the site looks like. Certainly as far as the subject site, to the north is a Chase Bank. To the northeast is a Gulf service station, which currently has 4 operating automotive repair bays. So there will be automotive repair in the area. Again, it's literally almost directly across the street from the current site. To the east of the site is a Key Food supermarket, and to the west is Hook Creek. We know that Hook Creek Boulevard, there is indeed a Hook Creek, and literally the Nassau-Queens border runs right along the western side of this premises. And there are some homes on the other side of Hook Creek, and they're all located in Queens, New York, in Queens County. If we look at exhibit number 1, just basically shows a schematic that we're not going to be doing any expansion of the building whatsoever. We're simply going to be expanding the convenience store within the footprint of the current service station and converting those bays. If we go to exhibit number 2, we'll just show what the floor plan will be. It'll be a very basic convenience store. There'll be a walk-in cooler. There'll be some items for food items, but there'll be no hot service of food. This will simply be a service of pre-prepared items. We would like to be operating for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There'll be 2 employees deciding at any one time, one at the convenience store and those obviously assisting in the gasoline operations, although the current site is a self-service station as well. We're not going to be making any changes to the gasoline station whatsoever. There are currently 2 pump islands. It will remain as 2 pump islands. We're not looking to install a canopy or again change anything to the current gasoline portion of the premises. We're only looking to go and change the service bays to the convenience store at this point. We are going to be improving the landscaping at the site. We do know there's not a lot of room for landscaping, but we will be making landscaping improvements to the site as well. And in addition, we will be looking to serve alcohol at the premises. We will be willing to covenant that there will be no alcohol sold between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. as well. There's currently not a generation transfer switch, but this board does request us to have a transfer switch for a backup generator if need be. My client has indicated to me they certainly will accommodate with that as well too. I do understand that. Yes.
Could we see the landscape plan? You have that?
There's none yet, but we will provide one to the board. I'll make sure my client provides one. We will provide you to the board. I think the landscape plan will work with you so it's adequate for your needs.
Okay, because that's an important thing. If you are going to change the use of the service space to a convenience store, it seems like a good opportunity to reconfigure the whole property and add landscaping to beautify the premises. So I would ask that you sit down with our building department and they work out with you a landscaping plan that improves the beautification of the community.
We will certainly do so. I'll work with the department to make the language I think you'll find more satisfactory to improve the site and community. I do notice that there's a violation report issued by the building department. If I go through them, I think we can come to a satisfactory resolution on them. One is for a plumbing permit from 2012 for a sewer line. My client says the work has been done from site for some time. He believes it was inspected. Maybe the certificate just wasn't filed out with. We'll make sure it's the case. There is an open permit regarding a 1962 4,000-gallon tank. That was approximately 2 tanks ago. The current tanks of the site are 7 years of age. The site's clean. Obviously, they put in new tanks to make sure there's no leakage of any product whatsoever. So we'll make sure that is closed out as well. But again, that tank is over 50 years old and is literally 2 replacements ago when that tank has been done.
Was there an environmental report done when you replaced the tanks? You have certification that the site is clean?
Yes, we have the site speak, and that's just a matter of fact, as you're aware, when they go do the replacement of the tanks, they're not going to complete that out. The fire marshal does not need to complete that out unless you have a clean site.
So you actually have the certificate.
Yeah, my
The
client.
tanks approved by the fire marshal.
Yes, my client. Yes, my client indicates it can, and just my own experience, I know the fire marshal will not even let the possibility to go and put up the site and open the pumps unless that's occurred. My client has additionally assured me that there's a certificate. I have no doubt there is a certificate as well, just based on how things operate. There's obviously a pylon sign from a BZA grant which expired. We'll be taking care of that as well. There had been a conversion of one of the garage bays to the convenience store, which is why we're here today, to legalize that and do the further expansion within the site, again, within the current footprint of the building, not any change of building whatsoever. There was also an issue regarding privacy fencing. There's fencing the property. We will put in privacy slats there as well in order to comply with that. There are also some indication for violations for unregistered vehicles, sale vehicles, storage of tires, and an ice machine. My client has actually given me photographs here this morning, which shows that all those violations have all been remedied. So I'll give this to the clerk. But if you go and take a look at the photographs, again, it shows that all the cars, the vehicles, the tires, the site has been significantly cleaned up. And unlike the prior application where I had to clean it up myself, this client was good enough to clean it up before I had to clean it up myself. So that has been certainly complied with.
You sound like a full-service lawyer.
It's amazing how full service may get sometimes. Sometimes you have to roll the sleeve yourself and do it, and sometimes people say that's the only time I'm a productive lawyer, is when I'm doing that type of work.
Make sure you do your work around the house for your wife, too.
She's the first to remind me, trust me. So again, that is the application we have. Again, we're looking, I think we've already made some improvements to the site. We will bring a landscape plan to further enhance the site and make this an asset to the Valley Stream and Woodmere community. If the board has any further questions, obviously willing to answer them.
Are there any other questions from members of the board on this matter, on this public hearing? Okay, there is no one signed in from the audience on this matter. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak on this public hearing? Okay, there being none, thank you, Mr. McKevin. I'll accept the motion.
Yes, Mr. Supervisor, I move that the hearing be closed and that we reserve decision in order to give the applicant and the building department time to formulate a adequate landscape plan and to assure that all the violations are either being remedied by this application or in the process of being remedied.
Second.
Supervisor Santino.
Aye.
Councilman Epicino.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Diaz-Pasito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Councilman Gooseby. Councilman King Sweeney.
Okay. Madam Clerk, now on the administrative calendar.
On the administrative calendar, Supervisor, I have items 1 through 33. I also have 3 resolutions that are of urgent nature to be added to this calendar. The first resolution is resolution to authorize the supervisor to execute an application for funding for Barnum Island Harbor Isle drainage improvement. This will be item 34 on the administrative calendar. The second resolution is resolution to authorize the supervisor to execute an application for funding for Atlantic Beach Fire Rescue Building, Resilience and Hardening. This will be item 35 on the administrative calendar. The third resolution is resolution calling a public hearing on a local law to enact a new chapter 33 of the Code of the Town of Hempstead to be entitled Mass Mailing Restrictions. This, Supervisor, will be item 36 on the administrative calendar.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Do any of the council members wish to sever any of the items on the calendar? Councilman Diaz-Pasito.
Supervisor, I move to sever item 23.
23? Any other? Okay, then I will ask for a motion. Well, I think we'll move the administrative calendar.
I wish to speak regarding item number 36 that we're proposing. I
Well, she's gonna make a motion first, and then obviously there'll be the public after that. So,
Okay, I'm going to move the calendar with the exception of 23, which I missed, to item number 36.
okay, is there a second on Councilwoman Goosby's, is there a second on Cindy's Councilwoman?
Second.
Okay, so,
Oh, Mr. Supervisor, I don't understand. Did we sever 34, 35, and 36?
oh, no one said that. We severed number 23. So now, we will hear from the public, and then obviously the members of the board can make any statement they want. On the administrative calendar, individuals who have signed in, now this is everything except item number 23, which, for those of you out there, is the Winston Avenue Park. So this is not Winston Avenue Park, this is the other matters on the calendar. So we will begin with
Well, Mr. Supervisor.
Martha and Brady.
Mr. Supervisor, may I make a suggestion? I understand there's a lot of people here to speak on Winston Avenue.
I thank you for your suggestion, but I will run the meeting.
Can I finish?
No, because I run the meeting and I want we're going to, there are four.
Let's do the one where there's a lot of people and let them get out of here.
Mr. Blakeman, there are four items that want to be talked about other than the Winston Avenue item. There are people who want to talk about that, and Winston Avenue has a lot of people who want to talk about it. That's going to take a lot longer. So in deference to these four people, I think, since I am running the meeting, we will call these folks
I'm
first.
aware of it.
Okay, that's great. We're going to start with Martha Ann Brady. Martha Ann Brady.
517 Miles Court, Uniondale.
Yes, ma'am.
I wish to speak on this resolution providing a grant for the youth services to the Uniondale Community Council.
Okay.
The Uniondale Community Council provides after-school services at Northern Parkway and Lawrence Road, and a summer camp also. And it is vital to all of our youth in our community that they have these opportunities to interact with one another, to learn how to play, for help with schoolwork, etc. And although this grant is small, I understand it's $5,000, every penny counts. I have been almost a lifelong resident of Uniondale and participated in after-school projects and other things within the town. And I want to thank the board for approving this because it is necessary. And we have to take care of our children. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brady.
Okay, I agree with you. I come to the programs and the kids are really happy. So thank you for coming and speaking about the Uniondale program.
Okay, thank you very much. Roy Gordon.
Afternoon. Rory Gordon, Hop Hog, New York. Item number 3. You explain to me how it works, how a building is deemed of imminent danger.
Okay, Mr. Town Attorney, you want to explain the method?
Essentially, the building department has an architect/engineer look at premises that they believe will be structurally in peril, and they get an engineer's report and an architect's report that suggests that the building is in danger of imminent collapse, and that's how they do it.
Thank you. All of these buildings that are here, do they all have an engineer's report?
They all, yes, if they're being torn down, they all have reports.
And what is the name of the engineer that the town uses? Is it always the same, or does it vary from place to place?
The building commissioner.
Why don't we have Commissioner Rockham, you want to come up and address that question?
Good morning, Supervisor, members of the town board. The current engineering firm that we use is Cash and Associates, which is located in Hop Hog.
Okay, is the same procedure followed when there's a fire?
Yes.
Okay, so how does it work when there's a fire? The engineer comes the next day or the day after and deems it's...
It depends on the damage of the house.
Okay.
We're a complaint-driven department. When we receive a call in case of a fire from the fire department, we'll respond at that time. Could be, while the fire department's still there, so it could be 24 hours a day. We would go there, and then our code enforcement officer would determine how much damage it was. If it's not too bad, we will have our water company board up the holes in the property. And if it is severely bad, then we will bring in engineering after that.
Okay, so the engineer wouldn't be coming in until 24 hours or 48 hours on the light side, is that correct?
No, that's not correct.
Okay, give me an idea of what the time frame is.
If it's in imminent danger and we need them out there at 3 o'clock in the morning, they'll come out at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Okay, and there would be a report on any property that there was fire damage, that this would have happened? It's not up to a person in the building department, it's got to be done by an engineer, is that correct?
If we're going to demolish it, correct.
Okay, and, yes, lastly, if there is a fire, and that was the situation, who would be the person that goes out and does that? Is it Ray Schwartz, is it Roy Gunther, or is it yourself?
It is the inspector that is working at that time.
Because the way I read the law, it says that you, as the commissioner, are doing all of these jobs, which doesn't seem feasible.
Or the commissioner's designee.
Okay, thank you, that's good for me.
Thank you very much. Said maybe I'm speaking. Don Casaba?
Don Casales, Hempstead, New York. I'm here on number 13. 13 is rescinding of a contract. This contract, the opening bid was done on June 22nd, 2017. So I'd like to, just a couple of questions. One, what was the date that the error was discovered?
Mr. Town Attorney?
Mr. Supervisor, I think this is an IT contract, and I know that I'll try to find it, but if someone here from IT.
Mr. Prim? Commissioner Prim?
Let me just get it.
There you go. Come on up, Mr. Commissioner.
There are two bidders. There were two bidders on this bid that was open. Sending in right now, October 2nd. So when did you discover the error?
I don't think this is an IT issue.
Okay, so...
Mr. Conway.
It's okay.
For the controller.
Supervisor, this is a maintenance agreement for microfilm and microfiche equipment. There were two bidders. Top 3 was the initial bidder that was awarded in error the contract. What had happened is the bid was a series of fee schedules, 5 different categories, about 5 items per category. And simply put, an error was made in the weighted average calculation awarding the bid. So what this is doing is rescinding that bid and awarding it to the second bidder, Precision.
Again, that wasn't my question. My question was, when was the error discovered?
July.
July. That's important, date, July. Okay. Who discovered the error? Was it the second bidder?
The second bidder reviewed it and brought it to our attention, and we reviewed it, and the second bidder was correct, and it was awarded to the second bidder, again, that being Precision. It was an error in calculation, a weighted average error on our part.
What was the total difference in error between the first and the second?
I don't have those numbers.
I'm sure we will get that
Okay, so
information.
the second question is how long after a contract is open, the bid is open, must it be awarded?
I don't believe there's a time frame.
30 days, 40 days?
Whatever is reasonable to review the bids.
So real quick, because obviously you've got children here in carriages that want to go to this separate item, but the bottom line is I'm not as bright as you are, but when I looked at the page from June 22nd on the calendar and the dollar amounts for the opening bid and the dollar amounts that were showing up today, I saw not one change in difference of what was published in the agenda and the resolutions. So, to me, I saw no change.
I don't have that in front of me, I have to believe it.
Okay.
Thank you. Phyllis Procacci.
Phyllis Procacci, 1165 Barn Street, Franklin Square, New York. The first thing, I'd like a review of the 3 added items to the administrative calendar.
You'd like to what, sir?
Review of the 3 items.
Mr. Town Attorney?
The first 2 have to do with the Governor's Office of Storm Recovery, and they are grants that are given to the town of Hempstead. We have to have the contract signed by October 10th. If we do not, we lose $8 million in its New York State funding, so that's what those 2 do. The third resolution is the calling of a public hearing for October 17th at 7 p.m. on mass mailing restrictions.
Mr. Procacci, I have copies of them, so I'll review and I'm handing them out to everyone so that you can fully understand what it says.
Thank you. I'd like to speak on the calling of the hearing for October 17th for the preliminary budget, and I oppose the date of that, and I oppose it for many reasons. So I have a statement that explains those reasons why I oppose that date. I oppose it first because it is clear that some members of the town board have not been briefed on the financial information over the last year. Second, 2 weeks to review a budget of over $400 million is not adequate. Third, the public is not being given an opportunity to comment on the tentative budget. There are towns that allow residents to comment on it. And most importantly, the board has not met to discuss either the 2016 financial results, nor have they met to discuss how the 2017 financials are tracking against its budget projections. In this regard, a discussion of the 2018 budget is premature. In addition, neither the audit nor any other 2016 financial documents have been distributed to town board members. Even if they were distributed today, 2 weeks is not enough time to review a $430 million budget. Clearly, Supervisor Santino appears to know about the 2016 financials. He has been talking and even boasting about them for the last 5 months. The problem is no one outside of this inner circle has seen these numbers. It is important to note that what Supervisor Santino is claiming to be a budget turnaround is based on estimated numbers. It is important for the public to know that budgeted numbers and actual numbers are not always the same. For example, in October 2015, the town reported it would be using $18 million in reserves for the 2016 fiscal year. Apparently, the estimated needed for fund balance increased $5 million to $23.5 million after the 2016 budget has passed. So things can change with budget numbers. In 2014, Deputy Town Controller Michael Dopianco told Newsday, the budget is only a spending plan, and the town could still see a surge in fourth quarter revenue or windfall by the end of the year, referring to the 2015 budget projections. A budget isn't a blueprint of what's going to happen, it's just an estimate or projection of what may happen. Supervisor Santino also fails to mention that the revenue in 2016, excluding revenue from debt, was about $6 million more than it was in 2015, while expenditures remain virtually flat. Supervisor Santino attributes his budget turnaround primarily to his budget cuts, when in fact revenue increases due to many fee increases he has voted for may have contributed to the improved financial outlook. Supervisor Santino claimed on April 25th of this year that an independent audit was performed. While Comptroller Conroy claimed it would not be completed until October 1st. Supervisor Santino lied to the public. Why should the public be convinced about Supervisor Santino's budget turnaround when his administration puts out inconsistent and false statements? This year, Supervisor Santino emphasized the need for the board members to adequately disclose all their outside income. At the same time, Supervisor Santino refuses to disclose the financial documents he used to justify his success in the town's so-called budget turnaround, which was advertised at taxpayer expense with no documentation to back it up. Therefore, for all the aforementioned reasons, I oppose calling the preliminary budget hearing for October 17, 2017, until adequate documentation can be distributed to the town board members and to the public at large. Thank you.
Mr. Bellacci, I think that you made a good point. Only yesterday did I receive the audited financials for 2016. We have not met since October of 2016 to discuss financial results, the budget, or anything. I did meet with Mr. Conroy. Thank you, Mr. Conroy, for meeting with me about 10 days ago. I do appreciate that. But I've asked for how do we track for our budget versus what we've spent on 2017. I was told we don't have a tracking mechanism. I asked a whole bunch of questions. I was told we have a 30-year outdated system that does not allow for answering those questions easily. So I think you raised some really good points. If we don't know, if I only now found out yesterday afternoon what happened in 2016, I had no idea what happened in 2017, and now we're expected to vote on a 2018 budget.
Yeah.
I think it's hard.
It's very hard. And also, what Supervisor Santino has been putting out on Newsday.com, these statements about the turnaround with the $5 million surplus, even though the numbers that are in Open Book New York show a loss. And most importantly, there's an official statement that I found on the municipal bond website that was aired just recently by the town. Subsequently, on February 2nd, Moody's downgraded the town's underlying credit rating from AA2 to AA3 and revised the outlook from negative to stable. Mr. Santino is advertising that as a rating upgrade, which is not what it is.
Thank you very much, Mr. Picacci.
Actually, once again, I'm responding to residents' comments. My understanding is the most recent, we have 3 ratings downgrades in a row. And we're counting that as a success because there was an outlook upgrade. And to me, that's not overly honest. When you talk about the financial health of the town, if you've had 3 ratings downgrades, you talk about outlook upgrades, I think that's inappropriate.
Okay, we have now, call the roll on the item that is not, everything but the item has been settled.
Actually, I want to go...
Call the roll, please. Madam Clerk, the next order, you can speak when you vote.
Let us speak.
Call the roll.
Santino. Councilman Ambrosino. Councilman Blakeman. Councilman D'Esposito. Councilman Dunn. Councilman Gooseby. Councilman King Sweeney.
Actually, as I was trying to speak, I have a couple of things I want to talk about. With regard to proposed item number 36, recent news reports have described developments in neighboring municipalities wherein lawsuits are being filed against them, alleging that such town mailers are blatantly political and in violation of state law. As we meet on October 17th to discuss and adopt a 2018 town budget, it's imperative that we show respect for the taxpayers of the town of Hempstead by restricting these mailers, thereby saving taxpayer money in said budget. We must act now to protect the town from exposure to potentially costly lawsuits, save taxpayer money in our upcoming budget through the restriction of town mailings, and give our residents complete confidence that the town is serious about the uninfluenced conduct of elections. So that's number 36, and then I did also have a question about number 26, because I did want to speak. Number 26 deals with personnel, and because we haven't had a chance to meet privately, I think maybe we have this conversation then in public, that I have reviewed our harassment policies in the town of Hempstead, and while they're good, they also seem to not be working so well. Because I have a senior member of the supervisory staff who instructed my staff to tell me to go F myself. And that was about a year ago, and there's been no investigation, to my knowledge, conducted on that. So perhaps we need to have a conversation about updating our harassment policies and our enforcement of those policies.
Okay. Is there someone? Councilman?
Well, considering I had a chance to speak earlier, yes.
Is there a vote?
That's great.
Respect
So I vote yes.
Okay, very good.
Let her finish.
Except on the following items on which I abstain, items 11, 12, 14, 15, and 16, as I continue to call for real, not fake ethics reform.
Okay, now we're going to call the residents wishing to speak on the severed item, and that is now pertaining to Winston Avenue Park. So, just give me one moment, I'm sorry. Kevin Devlin. And just at the outset, there are obviously folks with opinions on both sides of this issue. I would ask and that everyone's opinion and voice be respected. And we hear everybody out.
Thank you so much.
And give the speaker the courtesy of our attention. Sir.
Give that advice to yourself.
Thank you, Supervisor Santino and the rest of the town board. My name is Kevin Devlin, and for the record, I'm a legislative assistant to Senator John Brooks, Senate District 8. The senator asked me, he's unable to attend today's meeting, but asked me to say a few words on his behalf. Dear Supervisor Santino and town council members, I am writing you to ask you to support the Children of Merrick, the Let's Play 11566 project in the South Merrick Civic Association with your affirmative vote on Administrative Calendar Item 23 at the Town Board meeting on October 3rd, 2017. For several years now, local families have recognized the need to buy playground equipment to improve the Winston Avenue Park, which is presently only an open field with no recreational amenities. I fully support the community's efforts to transform this vacant parkland into a playground easily accessible to children. I am proud to confirm that if $100,000 is available to the town of Hempstead in the form of a grant administered by the Dormitory Authority of the State of New York and provided under the appropriate provisions of New York State law. These funds are to be used to reimburse the town for expenses related to the development of the park. It is my understanding additional funds in the form of the Nassau County Community Revitalization Project, a CRT, has been approved. As a response to a request made by Supervisor Santino over a year ago to Nassau County. In addition, I've been advised that Let's Play 11566 raised approximately $25,000 in an extraordinarily determined community-based fundraising effort. Government works best when elected representatives come together in a bipartisan fashion to benefit the taxpayers. It is in that bipartisan spirit that I urge each of you to vote in favor and pass the item number 23 on behalf of the Let's Play project without delay. Sincerely, John A. Brooks, Senator.
Thank you very much, sir. Sharon Field. We'll come back to that. Sean Field.
Yeah. October 17th.
Santino and the entire board.
Good morning.
That one other letter that wants to submit for the record, dropped off packets for each of you, so you have the appropriate packets.
Please give it to the clerk. If you want it to be on the record of this meeting, it's fine.
So, from the inspector, commanding officer of Nassau County Police Department, addressing the concerns. Dear Mr. Santino, the precinct pop unit conducted a survey on the proposed addition of a playground at the existing park located at the corner of Lona Lane and Winston Avenue in Merrick. Over a 3-year period, there's only been one motor accident at this location. There have been no crime reports at the park. We do not anticipate many changes as the playground is constructed and all town and parking rules will remain in effect. We think the addition of the playground will enhance the community in a positive way for the families and children who live in the neighborhood. Very truly yours, Thomas P. Corona, Inspector, Commanding Officer. Nassau County Police Department. So, again, before I continue to speak, hello? Listen? Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
I just want to say thank you for coming a few weeks ago to the 9/11 ceremony at a train station in Merritt. My brother's in fire, and I played on the hockey team with a lot of those guys. I know it meant a lot to them. To have you there, been through enough of these meetings to know that you don't get many people up here to even say thank you for anything you do. But it was truly appreciated, meant a lot, so thank you.
Thank you.
For a quick background, the other is now the playground. And again, we're not, I saw a sign up there saying no to Winston Avenue Park. It is a town of Hempstead park. They're saying no to a small children's playground to be put into a park. So we're not rezoning anything, we're not asking for anything that is, has any special requirements. For a quick background to the other board members who may not be familiar with this project, we have proposed the construction of a children's playground in an underutilized vacant 3-acre lot in Merritt that is already zoned as park. Over a year ago, the Townsend resident surveys to gauge the interest of children's playgrounds by members of the immediate community, and the town received an overwhelming response in favor of the playgrounds, and thus notified us that this project was approved by the supervisor. At that time, we began fundraising and gathering grant information. Be on this phone again?
Say?
I didn't know if you were on your phone. I was going to stop.
I'm not doing anything, I'm just sitting here, so, okay?
At that time, we began fundraising and gathering grant information for the supervisor, and it was clear to us that even though this is approved, it was to be funded exclusively through private fundraising and grants, not taxpayer dollars. We have raised a significant amount of money through donations and fundraising and have secured a $75,000 Community Revitalization Project grant from Nassau County and a $100,000 state municipal grant from New York State. The supervisor and his staff have been working with our legislator, Steve Rhodes, to come up with a plan so we can utilize the grant monies and our privately raised funds to begin construction of the playground. Last week, I had folders for each of you dropped off at the town hall to provide you with some background information on this project. I thought it was important that if the 7 of you are going to vote on the signing of this IMA, that you deserve, and the public as well, to have this information, since I only know of one of you who has ever set foot in this town of Hempstead. In July of 2016, Supervisor Santino formally requested the funding of $75,000 from a CRP grant from Nassau County. In this letter, he wrote that this project is, quote, has the potential of bettering the community's quality of life and further enhancing community parkland and open space. The county agreed to grant the IMA, and the IMA was sent to the town in July of 2017. Supervisor Santino also provided us the South American Community Civic Association with a letter in May 2017 stating his support of our fundraising efforts that enabled us to further our fundraising goals. With the supervisor and town support, we have currently raised over $25,000. Also included in your packet is the breakdown of this proposal, and that is simply for a small children's playground. In that packet, there is an aerial of the park so you can see the size of the park in relation to surrounding houses. I have also included a partial map of Merritt, south of Merritt Road, to illustrate where the next closest playground is located. This was asked by Councilmember Dunn when I spoke to him last week. You can see that Merritt, south of Merritt Road, is essentially made up of 2 peninsulas, and walking from your house near the Winston Avenue Park to Julian Lane Park, especially with children, is nearly impossible. All we're proposing is a small children's playground on one peninsula, similar in play elements and footprint as the one we have on the other peninsula in Merritt, and it's not costing the town a single dime of taxpayer money. Lastly, in your packets was an article from Supervisor Santino swearing in on January 5th, 2016, where he said, quote, "We should not let knee-jerk NIMBYism stifle proposals and projects that should play a vital role in our town's future." I know NIMBY was a new term to many at our Civic Association meeting, so for the benefit of those here today and for the record, NIMBY is an acronym for Not in My Backyard. I don't know what others will say in opposition to the park, but they are the exact definition of NIMBYism. So why do we have to jump through all of these hoops? Why is it even come down to this?
Mr. Field, your time has expired, so if you can submit the rest to the clerk so it's part of the record.
10 more seconds.
Finish up then. Go ahead, finish up.
So why do we have to jump through all these hoops? Why does it even come down to this? Why did the town of Hempstead attorney go door to door to the homes of people who opposed this proposal to hand deliver a calendar of today's events and tell them they need to show up today? It wasn't every home in the area, because my parents' house was closer to the park than some of the houses that were visited by Bill Mueller, except their house was color-coded green on your map, not red. I've sat through enough of these meetings to hear you say that everything is posted online when people ask why they weren't notified before these meetings. So is there a new operating procedure for calendar items? Since we began discussion with the town of Hempstead over 2 years ago about this playground proposal, we have done everything the right way. We have done everything you and your staff has asked of us to make this reality. I don't know if what I said just now had any effect on how you will each vote today, but I promise my kids, the people who poured countless hours into this project, and our numerous donors that I would do everything I could and then some for this playground. I gave them my word, and when we leave here today, I will have no doubt that I was treated fairly in everything I did. Everything that we did over the past 2+ years. Well, the time is here. Today is the vote. We all have to ask ourselves, what is our word worth? Because I told my family, and most importantly my kids, that we're building a park, and it's down to you as the school board.
With all due respect, that's a lot more than 10 seconds. So we can just make it part of the record with the clerk, and we thank you very much. We have a lot of people who want to speak on this. Make it all part of the record by giving it to the clerk. Thank you.
Mr. Supervisor.
David Tarr,
Mr.
please.
Supervisor, I have a question concerning what this gentleman said. Is that true that your council went through?
We're hearing public comment, Mr. Blake.
Well, I'm asking. Did your council?
Mr. David Tarr, resident who does the sign in, Mr. David Tarr?
Here we go,
No, Mr. Tarr? Okay. Royce Winnick. Good morning, Stella. How are you? Your name and address to the record, please.
My name is Royce Winnick.
Yes.
2758 Lincoln Boulevard in Merrick. I am in support of the park. I have been in support of the park for the last 2 years since we've been trying to fight for this. I'm here today to read some letters from residents that could not be here to give their voices. Dear Supervisor Santino, I'm writing this letter to be submitted at the town hall meeting scheduled for 10/3/17. I'm unfortunately unable to participate given my work commitments and wanted to ensure my support for the Winston Park playground. It was recorded and given in its rightful consideration. I have now been a member of this community for over 5 years. I have 2 children, ages 7 and 4, and live within walking distance to the green space for the intended park. A park would be a wonderful addition for the community, as it would be provided a great place for the Merrick community and our immediate neighbors to come together and interact, allowing for adults to network and children to begin to build long-lasting friendships. A park is also a great place to promote physical activity in our children, increasing health benefits, and will increase convenience for local neighbors, as there currently is no park on the Winston-Hewlett Peninsula for children. Additionally, I'd like to voice my extreme disappointment in the town, its officials and process relating to the current status of the park. Local residents, Let's Play 11566, with the best intentions, surveyed the neighborhood over a year ago, seeking to understand whether the community at large would support a park at the proposed location. Following overwhelming support, they approached the town to ensure appropriate steps were taken to build at the Winston location. The town subsequently conducted its own survey, further confirming town residents were largely in favor of the park and held objections. Despite prior objections, the town, in a letter signed by the town supervisor, you, Mr. Santino, provided their support and relevant ongoing maintenance for a park at the proposed location, so long as the town was not responsible for the initial fee. Upon approval from your office, members of the Let's Play 11566 were able to get a grant and raise enough money from members of the community, such as myself, to fund the park. Now that the money has been raised and the community is ready to break ground, it is my understanding that your office is unwilling to release the grants provided, given specific local residents bordering the park have further objected. These objections, as I heard at the last town hall meeting, are the same as we have previously heard, and I do not understand what has changed and why your office is flip-flopping on the decision that was already rendered. The park is not for a select few who live closest to the park. We all pay taxes, and those taxes go for its upkeep. The tax-paying community has voted. The town sustained that the vote through the letter you drafted and signed. I now ask you to honor your commitment and allow the community to proceed with the park as intended. Signed, Brian Stone. Dear Supervisor Santino, I am writing this letter to be submitted on record as my support of the Winston Avenue Park Playground project. Although I am unable to attend the meeting on Tuesday, I would like my support for this project to be noted. I moved here with my husband and children 2 years ago. We relocated from Manhattan so our children would have a place to run around, play, and make memories. I truly believe that a park on our block would make a great addition to the neighborhood and give all our children a chance to do that. Currently, we have to drive or walk to get to the closest park. I strongly believe that parents will be so grateful to have a playground in walking distance. Thank you for your time on this matter. I really believe that if this park is built, you will be making a tremendous difference in the lives of the families that live in the neighborhood. Lauren Shiro. Dear Supervisor Santino, we are writing this letter to be submitted on record for our support in the Winston Avenue Playground project. Due to work commitments, we were unable to attend the town hall meeting on Tuesday, October 3rd. We recently purchased a home in Merrick, and part of the reason we elected to do so was our recognition that this neighborhood is filled with young families. So many of the people we have met believe in this community and seek opportunities to meet each other and come together to form a strong neighborhood that will benefit us and our children for years to come. Many of us have moved to the community activism due to the fact that the children in our peninsula do not have a playground to congregate and play. It seems like the empty lot off of Winston Ave is the perfect space for such a playground to exist. Our children do not have access as all the other peninsulas surrounding. While we understand we have a lovely neighborhood as is, we also believe a simple playground would enrich the lives of our children. We have gathered for meetings, raised funds, and raised awareness for this cause. We have done so because we strongly believe that this playground will be a great asset to our community. We thank you for your time and your tremendous service to the town of Hempstead, and hope for your help to see this project through to its completion. Sincerely, Jennifer Hempstead.
Thank you very much. Okay. You want to give this to the clerk to make them part of the map? Give it to the clerk to make them part of the record. Paul Goldman. Mr. Paul Goldman.
No, this is what he says. This is a personal thing. He could put this on a personal thing. Why can't I put this on a personal thing?
Your name and address for record, sir.
Paul Goldman, 3016 Winston Avenue.
This should be off.
Directly sharing the gate with the Winston Avenue parking lot. So I guess it's fair to say that I am labeled as not for the park. We had a meeting not too long ago. It was a South Civic, South Merrick neighborhood volunteer meeting where the item for the park was discussed. And I guess I took an approach at that meeting to not try to convince others that they should be for a park or against the park. I think it's pretty clear, and what you'll probably see here today is that you're going to have a lot of people that are going to come up here and they're going to be for the park, regardless of, where they live or anything like that. People want to have a voice. And then you're going to find that people who are going to come up here and they can be against the park. So as far as, letters and emails and things like that, from what I've heard, I think it's pretty clear that there is a very large pile of letters that are for the park, and there's a very large pile of letters that are against the park. So getting past that, I never realized up until now the thought and feeling that the parents in South Merrick were so, feeling so, I guess, gypped by not having a park within walking distance. There are plenty of parks in our neighborhood. There are parks on what we refer to as the quote-unquote other peninsula that you'll hear of. There is a large, beautiful park down Newbridge Road. There is a park by a school by Chatterton. There is a park called Julian Lane. There are plenty of parks. On top of that, we have backyards where many of us have swing sets. Again, I never realized until today how the members and children of the South Merrick community, whose tax dollars are quite high, are missing anything in life without having a particular park that they can say that they can walk to. But this is America. People can fight for things and what they want. So be it. One of the things that we ended that South Civic meeting was that we were going to have an amicable collection of minds that would come together and say, what can we do to get on the same page? And yes, of course, those of us that surround the park, like myself sharing a fence with the park, yes, we are probably the loudest voices that are against the park. We will be affected by the park. What will the effects be? We don't know. Nobody can know. And that's probably a part of the fear of exactly what it will be to put a park in there. Will the parking exceed what the limits on parking? Will people continue to speed as children are crossing the street? A lot of people have brought up stop signs. I can personally tell you, I could care less about the stop signs that everybody in South America pretty much just rolls through anyway and doesn't come to much of a stop. I don't think that's going to do anything. It's really the fear of the unknown of what it's going to do. Noise, is the park going to be maintained, things of that nature. So what we decided to do is that we agreed with, those that are, let's call them like the heads of the park, that, we would take some time, we would get together and see if we can come to an amicable, solution. Can we agree to do something together? And I believe that we left that meeting shaking hands and saying that we can do that. Now we fast forward to now, and whatever the correct term is, the item has been put onto the calendar, so we're here talking about it today, but we have missed the opportunity to sit as we wanted to sit, speak intelligently, professionally, amicably, and say, what can we do together as a community so that people can be as close to everyone being as happy as possible? We have not had that chance. Because however many days ago, we all of a sudden got messages and memos and social media links saying, if you want your voice to be heard, you're basically in the ninth inning, you're in the bottom of the ninth and there's 2 outs, this is your chance to say something. Well, I would like to have that opportunity to leave this room, have this discussion tabled for a future date, so that we can speak, the neighbors that are touching the park, that will be most affected by the park, and see if we can figure this out together. And I know that I can speak for I'll call them the leaders of Let's Play 11566. They're willing to do that. But it seems as though we've just simply have run out of time. This IMA, which is a term that I just recently learned about, is apparently under a clock, and we have to leave this room with a decision. Let's come up with a decision that we can leave this room that says we are going to table this item. We are going to allow the community to discuss this together, and we maybe can come back here and figure something new out. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Aaron Goldsmith. Aaron Goldsmith? Name and address for the record, sir.
Aaron Goldman, 2174 Vine Drive, American New York. Good morning. I live at the intersection of Ilona Drive and Vine Drive, which is at the south entrance of this park. I oppose the park. However, I will also note with Mr. Goldman that he and I did attend that meeting this past weekend. In an attempt to try and mitigate some of our concerns. And I do also feel that there can be and should be further attempts to do that. But let me run through the concerns that I have. As I said, I live directly across the street from this park. I have 3 young children, so my children are of age where it is appropriate for them to play in a playground. There are going to be a number of individuals who are proponents of this park who I expect you will hear from saying that everything was hunky-dory for the last year and a half until now. The fact of the matter is, as I've expressed to some of the more reasonable individuals who are the proponents, that there was very limited notice to any of us. And we can all, on both sides, try to blame whether it was the supervisor's office, whether it was Ms. King-Sweeney's office for failing to respond. However that is, it helps none of us. What does is the opportunity to continue to work, and rather than focusing on everything was fine, because the lack of notice and public discourse over the previous 18 months has been evident, I think, to almost everyone on both sides. My concerns are as follows. Traffic and public safety are of the utmost concern. This is a park that on the northern entrance has a blind curve to it, in which numerous vehicles on a daily basis, in which the vast majority of the proponents, none of whom live surrounding the park, could be able to tell you how many cars daily speed there. I do think that there should be more traffic control devices such as stop signs, particularly the intersection of where I live. It's a 3-point intersection. It does not have a stop sign on any street, and is situated immediately at the south entrance of this park, where presumably, if this measure passes, there will be a large population of young children entering and exiting. There are alternatives. There is a playground, a large playground development at Julian Lane Park. There is a playground development at the Lakeside Elementary School. There is a playground development at the Newbridge Road Park. There is a playground development at the Birch School. All of these playground developments lie situated within 1.5 to 1.8 miles of the locus of this Winston Avenue field. There are plenty of options. These areas are close. They are even close enough for my son, who will soon be 12, where we used to actually ride our bikes to the Julian Lane Park. In addition, there is, from my understanding, and I don't stand here to say even for a heartbeat that we, as those who live directly surrounding the park, deserve some sort of supermajority or super veto or anything of that nature. It is also my understanding that, historically speaking, the town of Hempstead has not approved any similar park development where the individuals who are most impacted, directly impacted, being the people who immediately surround the park, are all opposed. Even if there had been 1 to 2 individuals who immediately surround the park, that still is not an accurate reflection. This is the vast of all of the individuals who immediately surround the park are opposed. There are others who oppose who live further out, just as there are others who support who live further out. Time is not of the essence in this case. We have been told, and I, along with Mr. Goldsmith, took the opportunity to meet at Councilwoman King Sweeney's house this weekend with the leaders of the proposition to ask exactly why it needed to get done so quickly. Was there a hard and fast deadline to this funding in the IMA? The answer simply is no. This is a political-based assumption on the part of the proponents. I'm running out. I've got 10 seconds. I'd ask for the courtesy of a few seconds more.
Just a couple afterwards.
But most importantly, I also happen to feel that, I'll wait for the buzzer.
But please try to wrap up.
The park is zoned dually as a park, but it is also zoned as wildlife conservation, which I believe presents a more significant hurdle than people are willing to give it credit for. And I do have copies of the local zoning to make it part of the record.
Thank you very much, John.
There also is another option that I do think satisfies the concerns of public safety for the local residents and the children that will be playing. Supervisor, there is a similar field that is but 3 blocks away on a far less populated street, far less traveled, with 1 point of ingress and egress that would, I would hope and presumably pose far less of a threat for children entering and exiting into traffic.
Thank you.
And I do hope that whatever happens beyond today, the parties as neighbors can try to move forward.
Thank you, Mr. Goldsmith. Catherine Stone. Catherine Stone.
Hi, my name is Catherine Stone. I reside at 2087 Berkeley Lane in Merritt, New York. Good afternoon. I'm here today as a resident of Merritt to not only put on the record my undeniable support for the Winston Avenue Playground project, but to ask the question why. Why am I having doubts that what we're all here to vote on today is not going to be a unanimous in favor? Why do I question you, Mr. Santini, on your ability to follow through with your request for funding for this project? The only way that this project was able to secure funding from Nassau County was with your written request. So why? Why am I skeptical that you will not be voting in favor for something that you asked for? We began this project with a simple petition. reaching out to the residents in our area to see who would be in favor of having a playground on a piece of land that belongs to all of us. When presented with the information, the town felt that they needed to hear the voices of those closest to the proposed area. The town chose the homes that you felt would be impacted the most and asked for their say. Of those homes, the majority of them voted in favor of the project. With that information, a decision was made. You gave us your full support in raising funds for this project, at no cost to any taxpayer, and stated you would happily provide the land and the maintenance if we could fund it. What has made you second guess the voices of the people of the homes that you chose? I believe we deserve an answer. I've put on the line my time away from my family, my money, my reputation as a community member to help support this project. I hope that with today's vote, you will all honor your word to us and vote in favor to authorize the execution of the IMA. Thank you for your time. I do have 3 minutes left, so I'd like to read some other letters of support, particularly from an 8-year-old, Sadie Labby, who's a Levy Lakeside 3rd grader. Dear whom it may concern, we should build a park on Alona for many reasons. One reason we should build a playground is because it's just lots more fun to walk into a park with things to do, such as a playground, a swing set, a path to ride our bikes on or to walk on. Another reason we should build a park there is so that if you're bored one day and you want to go to the park, it'll be much closer and local. So the kids who live closer to Julian Lane Park can go there, and the people closest to Alona can go there. Neither park will be so crowded. I've been to Julian Lane and I had to wait a very, very long time for the swings. Kids on both peninsulas should have parks closer to their homes. Maybe we won't be on our screens so much if we had a fun place to play. The final reason we should have a park on Alona is because walking there could be such a fun thing to do with family and friends. You can also ride your bike and have such a fun time. Now let's do it. Let's build a park. Sincerely, Sadie Labby, age 8. Another letter from Lee and Richie Berman, 3421 Hewlett Avenue, Merritt, New York. Dear Supervisor Santino, we are writing this letter to be submitted on record as our support in favor of the Winston Avenue Park Playground project. Due to work commitments, we're unable to attend the town meeting, but would like to be heard and have the chance for our support to be recorded. We have lived in Merritt for over 40 years, where we still reside today, and have raised 3 wonderful children in this town, 2 who have returned and purchased homes in Merritt for their own families. As you are aware, there are no children's playgrounds on the Hewlett Winston Peninsula in South Merritt. We are nearing retirement age and want to enjoy the company of our 7 grandchildren. There is no greater joy for a grandparent than to take our grandchildren to the park and watch them have the time of their lives. Our grandchildren love to jump, run, and play, but there are no playground structures close by for us to take them to. Parks are wonderful additions to the community and have helped us develop friendships many years ago, many of whom we are still friends with to this day. Children bring others together and create such joy in the scary world that we live in. Having a playground in the currently empty space would be a great addition to our neighborhoods and benefit our children, our grandchildren, and many other families for years and years to come. We fully support the creation of a playground on Winston and hope it can be approved, built, and enjoyed before our grandchildren are too old to enjoy it. Thank you for all that you have done to improve the town of Hempstead thus far. Regards, Lee and Richie Berman. Casey Stone, 3231 Winston Avenue. Dear Supervisor Santino, I'm writing this letter to be submitted on record as I'm in support of the Winston Avenue Park Playground since I'm unable to make the hearing tomorrow as a result of work. I've been very disappointed to hear that there is potential for this project not to come to fruition. I personally devoted both time and money to this project with the expectation that we would have a park on the Winston Peninsula. The community park is a great place for children and adults in the community to socialize and meet new people. My husband and I have been living and married for less than 2 years, and we would love nothing more for our son to have a safe, fun community space. Julian Lane Park is nearly 2 miles away and not feasible to walk. Can I finish?
Now let and then submit the rest of the card, okay?
Thank you. Not feasible to walk, which leaves many little children without things to do during the days if we don't have someone who can drive them to the park. On my days off, I've often seen some of the nannies and grandparents bring children to this park. Wouldn't it be great if they could have a playground to play on? Right now, the empty lot is serving no purpose in our community, and rather than having an uncultivated space, we could bring the community together and allow our children to lead healthier lives, rather than being forced to stay inside and play on iPads or watch TV. It is my sincere hope that you will make the right decision. Thank you for your support. Sincerely, Casey Stone.
Thank you very much, and please submit to us the letters of the clerks. Mr. Louis Gossard, Mr. Gossett. Louis Gossett. Good afternoon now. Name and address to the record.
Louis Gossard, 2128 Ilona Lane. I live directly across from the park on Winston and Ilona Lane. I strongly oppose any possible creation of a playground in this park, and I will explain why. Being a resident for over 22 years, raising 4 children, I never felt the need or a void to have any playground equipment in this park. This is a busy intersection with young drivers, often speeding around the corners. Since this park is on the corner, there are many turns adjacent to the park. Ilona Lane and Winston Avenue, Ilona Lane and Vine Drive are busy corners. Many people use Winston Avenue as a thoroughfare to Merritt Road. I have witnessed many disturbing incidences where safety was in jeopardy. Before any thought to move forward on this, the 30 homeowners on the perimeter of this field need to be heard and considered. I have spoken to many homeowners in the adjoining area to the park, and most displayed strong opposition, mostly because of the added activity it would create. We are directly affected by this, by our property values and the right to quiet enjoyment and safety. The park is currently used for various activities. Little League has practices there, families gather, elderly people relax on the benches, just to name a few. It is not as if the space is dormant, as many have said. It is currently used by the residents of Merritt. Action group Let's Play 11566 had a petition signed by most residents that don't live anywhere near this park, some of them from other towns. The zip code 11566 encompasses many miles. Anyone would sign a petition to have a playground for their young children, not really considering all the risks involved. I don't blame them on this. All these people are considering is that they have another park to choose from in the area. A full safety study of the area must be done by the town of Hempstead, and not rely on a letter from a local police precinct stating that no crime or accidents have yet to take place. In fact, I had an accident on that corner of the park this past summer, and I did not report it to the police. There are playgrounds with swings, monkey bars at Birch, Chatterton, Levy Lakeside, and Julian Lane Park. All are centrally located for Merritt families that live near these areas. There are also other parks on Clubhouse Road and Hellier Drive. The community does not have any shortage of play areas. I am disappointed in our elected officials who have jumped on board in favor of this proposal without first considering the safety issues and the homeowners who are directly affected. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Anthony Capitola. Anthony Capitola. Good afternoon. Name and address for the record.
Anthony Capitola, 2C Hillside Avenue, Worcester Park, New York. Sitting next to me, is Stephanie Lavadia. We're both attorneys. We represent several of the people affected by the park issue, specifically the Mark Montulios, who live at 3031 Winston Claire and Eric Kasdorf, who live at 3037 Winston. Each are directly across from the Winston Avenue entrance and exit to the park. We also represent Patty Edmondson, who lives on Ilona on the other side. We are vehemently opposed on behalf of these 3 families to the park being approved by the board. We feel, and listening to the presentations by many of the citizens, I don't want to rehash things that have been said, but there are 5 parks within 1 mile radius of the area. Our clients each were allegedly the subject of the survey, which they voted, according to the survey, in favor of this park. That's erroneous. None of them voted in favor of the park on the survey. They were subsequently interviewed by town people, and they informed these town people that they were opposed and not, as the survey indicated, in favor of this. Our clients also feel, as regards this particular Winston Avenue, because of the curve of the roadway, that there is substantial danger, that the police precincts offer to the town that this is a relatively accident-free zone is erroneous. We have with us a number of pictures showing that the fences in this area along Winston have been hit by cars over the years. Police reports have not been made. Our clients' cars have been hit. They wake up in the morning, find them hit by cars. They believe the additional traffic that's going to ensue from people going to the park will further congest this area. There's not sufficient parking in the area without relying on their driveways and other areas of ingress and egress to permit parking, and this is going to create a parking hazard. For a moment, I'd like Ms. Ovadia to just present some photos to the court, to the board, and give a brief explanation as she goes along.
I'd like to talk about the maintenance. Most parks, as you know, require a lot of maintenance once you put playgrounds in it. This is for the safety of our children. Children do crazy things, and you always have to maintain these parks and make sure that it's safe, because that's really the bottom line, is the safety of our children with playgrounds. I want to show you the current park.
Clarify for 1 second. I mean, we maintain parks throughout all out of Hempstead. I just worked on a park for about 2 years, and you can look at it, and it's beautifully maintained.
I'm sure it is, but I'd like to show you this park. I'd like to...
Let's hear from the council. Go ahead, please.
Right, I'd like to at least show you the photos I have of the park in the current state that it's in. First of all, the first photo I'd like to show you shows the fence in its current condition. You can notice that this fence is lifted up. I don't know how that happened. It could have been a car coming up on the sidewalk. That's possible. It could have been a number of things. But this is not a fence that is in good repair. And I hope you can see it from up there.
Please make it part of the record.
I will, absolutely.
That issue came up during the last civic meeting, and we absolutely will ask the Commissioner of Parks to replace and upgrade the fence.
When was the last civic meeting?
Sometime, I don't know the date, it was sometime last week.
All right, because I was there yesterday. These pictures were taken yesterday.
Well, it was just last week that we had the civic meeting.
Okay, but I'm just showing that it has not been
I wouldn't expect it within a week to
Okay.
replace.
Okay. Also, I want to show you that there are holes in the fence. I don't know how this happened, but there's actual holes in the fencing. Also, I don't know what this is. This might have been the repair, money for repairs maybe, but this looks to me like a shower curtain.
You can't see it. It's essentially somebody erected cyclone fencing over the existing cyclone fencing without properly fixing it. It's just laid over without any proper installation.
So we should get a new fence.
You can do a lot of things on an ongoing basis. It's going to cost the town a fortune to do it. And once you start that process of getting the initial funding in place, the ongoing maintenance and the liability that will continue to incur for maintenance and for accidents that may occur at the facility. Let me finish, ma'am, please. The accidents that will occur at the facility remain the insurers, and that in this case is the town's responsibility. We are just showing that I don't want to be attacked. I'm trying to show you the conditions of the site as it presently exists. Our clients, all who live directly across from this and are most affected by it, are extremely agitated by the additional traffic that this will cause them and the additional imposition of cars in the area. There are 5 other parks within 1 mile of this park.
If I can interrupt for 1
No, I'm not done yet,
Back to the
ma'am.
fence.
I'm not done.
Time can stop.
Councilor, go ahead, please.
Our clients have had the opportunity to observe what goes on this street, and they do not wish to have this here. The park can be used for other things as it currently stands, touch football, games, wiffle ball, things of that like. but the liability that the town will incur on an ongoing basis is unfettered. It will continue because you are personally insured, that the town is personally insuring all of these liabilities. Thank you.
Thanks, Councilman, your comments inspired.
Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to respond to that. I think we're in full agreement that the fence needs to be replaced, updated, fixed, whatever is required. I think that's a separate issue. I fully support the fence being fixed. There's no question there. And as far as liability, we did not have this discussion with the Point Lookout Park that I worked on. It was the same scenario where we received county funding from Legislative Ford, just like we're receiving county funding from Legislative Roads. It's the same situation. This insurance issue is now raised at the 11th hour. This is new. We have not discussed this before. No. We've worked with the county. No. I should go to respect. It has...
Oh, tell me. You should...
Council, we will let, please, the audience, and we will all maintain good order so this doesn't devolve into chaos. Thank you very much.
Regarding the insurance issue, this has been worked on with our attorneys at the town of Hempstead and with Nassau County, and this is we're handling.
You just said you just heard about it for the first time. You're telling me, and now you're saying.
All right, we will maintain good order. Everyone will have their opportunity. So let me suggest.
You said that you first take.
Please, sir.
Then you said we worked on it.
Sir.
So you're contradicting yourself.
No, I'm actually not.
So we need to maintain good order.
We have a different view on how insurance should be handled. We can have a different opinion on how insurance can be handled. My point is there has never been an objection raised as to how we're handling the insurance. The insurance issue, I just received a text from Legislative Roads, has been worked out with the town and the county. It's the same way that it's been handled in other situations. That's what I'm saying is what's different.
Thank you very much, Councilwoman. Jay Rogoff. Let's hear from another resident. Mr. Jay Rogoff.
Good afternoon, Jay Rogoff, 2757 Shore Drive, Merrick, New York. So I'd like to start off today by reading a letter from Steve Rhodes, who is not able to be here this morning. Dear Supervisor Santino and members of the town board, I am writing to respectfully express my support for the intermunicipal agreement between the town of Hempstead and the county of Nassau regarding the partial financing for the proposed installation of play equipment at the town's Winston Avenue Park through Nassau County's Community Revitalization Program, CRP funds. As the county's representative for the Merrick community, I was excited when I was approached by the South Merrick Civic Association and the leaders of Let's Play 11566 about their grassroots effort to install play equipment at Winston Avenue Park. As a resident of Belmore, just a few houses down from the town's Randy Lane Park, I understand and have lived the benefits of a neighborhood play area within walking distance of the homes in our community, and I believe it will be a wonderful addition to the Merrick community, which will be enjoyed for many years to come. The proposal itself is well thought out, and the community's efforts at fundraising and their ability to obtain grant commitments from both the county and state to raise a collective $200,000 towards the design and installation of the playground is an extraordinary display of the community's support. In recent weeks, a few members of the community immediately surrounding the park have raised very legitimate concerns and questions regarding the proposal's potential impact upon traffic, parking, and safety for both the users of the playground and the surrounding residents. I have had the opportunity to speak and meet with several of these homeowners and remain confident that many of those concerns can be addressed in a way to alleviate them before the project moves forward. The timing of this agreement, however, is important. To address the town's concerns with the traditional CRP financing reimbursed on a retroactive basis, I have secured a commitment from the county executive and county controller to advance up to $37,500 of the $75,000 in grant funds, so as to allow not a single dollar of town money to be spent on completing the project. This commitment is reflected in the language of the intermunicipal agreement before you. The timing is significant because regardless of the outcome of November's elections, there will be a new county executive and new county controller on January 1st. The failure, therefore, to have a fully executed intermunicipal agreement in place before January 1st leaves open the possibility that the new county executive and/or his county controller may choose to retract that commitment, reversing the extraordinary progress I have worked hard to achieve in addressing the town's financing concerns. Given the calendars of the town board and county legislator, which must act to approve the IMA once executed by the town, it is unlikely that the IMA can be fully executed by January 1st without approval by the town board today. In contrast, approving and executing the IMA does not bind the town to any specific timetable, nor does it bind the town to complete the project at all. It merely secures the financing of the playground should the town choose to move forward. This would allow the town the time necessary to continue efforts to address the parking, traffic, and safety concerns raised by the residents directly bordering the park. I think the goal for every elected official is to use resources given to the government by the people we serve in a way that best serves them. The challenge isn't always easy and the path isn't always clear, but advancing the funding for this project today keeps open the opportunity to pursue something which would benefit the residents of Merrick. Very truly yours, Stephen Rhodes, Legislator 19th District. With that, I'd also like to read two letters that we as a committee have received from you and the board. The first is from you, Mr. Santino. Dear Legislator Rhodes, the town of Hempstead and I would like to formally request the funding of the community revitalization project in the amount of $75,000 for a project located in South Merrick community of your legislative district. Winston Avenue Park is a beautiful park bounded by Winston Avenue, Alona Lane, and Elm Drive. Neighbors in town are seeking to partner to upgrade the facility so it can better serve the middle class, families, children, and neighbors who utilize it throughout the year for recreational purposes. The CRP funds would be used to help defray the cost and installation of new playground equipment, benches, all other equipment that will be used by adults and children of all ages, coupled with donations and investments by the community stakeholders. This project that the town of Hempstead has spearheaded with your office has the potential of bettering the community and the quality of life and further enhancing the community, parkland, and open space. Thank you in advance for your anticipated cooperation. I'm certain that the finalized upgrades and enhancements to the Winston Avenue Park will be greeted with excitement by the South Merrick neighbors.
Jay, can I ask you a question? What was the date of that letter?
July 28, 2016.
Okay, so just to put things in context, I think, but as far as the timing, so
Thank you.
Legislator Rhodes was able to secure that CRP funding shortly thereafter, and I have the exact date in my head, but I think it was like a month or two. As soon as that funding became available, you all rightfully got excited and said, okay, let's start planning this park. Let's sit with the community and plan the park. And then, unbeknownst to any of us, the supervisor said, no, you can't have access to that funding because the town of Hempstead won't expend any funds. None of us thought when we applied for this CRP funding that would mean we would not be able to operate on this reimbursable basis, which it always is. It certainly was the case with Point Lookout. But nonetheless, we spent months and months and months with the county attorneys and the town attorneys to create this very artful IMA so that the town of Hempstead would never be out any cash. With the money that you've raised, with the forwarding of the county money, that's the reason for all of this delay, is that because we were not able to actually access those CRP funds that the supervisor had requested from Legislator Rhodes, which he got, which was great, but we had to spend months and months and months negotiating this incredibly novel type of IMA.
Correct, yeah. And then we started raising funds with the letter that Supervisor wrote to us.
Okay, then thank you very much, sir. Your time has expired. Chris Lofton. Chris Lofton. You may submit those to the clerk. Chris Lofton. There we go. Please have a seat, Mr. Lofton.
Good afternoon.
Yes, name and
363 Winston Avenue. I come in front of the board today. Thank you for your service, by the way, as a opponent of the park. And I'll briefly tell you why. My wife and I just purchased a home at 3063 Winston Avenue, which is directly across the street from the intersection where Winston comes down and you make a right on the Loma. We bought the home in part because of the beautiful water behind it, which we pay a premium for, about $3,000 a month in real estate taxes. And the other reason was because of the beautiful green park across the street. I have 3 kids, ranging from 8 to 13 years old. We just moved from North Merrick, where my wife and I lived for 15 years. We had an elementary school close by, so we used to take our kids to the school to play on the equipment that you guys have designed to put in the park. And like clockwork, every Saturday morning and every Sunday morning, you find a nice, fresh, broken beer bottles, cigarette butts, and the whole 9 yards from the night before, from the teenagers. And I was a teenager too, and had a lot of fun myself. Not looking for it to happen across the street from my house, like I said, that I'm paying a premium to live in, and this is the reason I bought this home. I'm not as passionate as some of the people here are. I understand both sides of the argument. I will comment also that the fence is horrible. I question one of my neighbors that there's literally a guy that comes down and locks the park every morning, and there's another group of guys that comes down, unlocks it in the morning and locks it in the evening. That's taxpayer expense, correct? I asked the neighbor, why would we not take down that ugly fence and leave it open, because there's nothing to steal except trees and grass. And he explained to me that they put the fence up because previously the kids were driving through the parks like the old show. Remember Dukes of Hazzard when they would do the donuts in the fields and all that? And like I said, I was a teenager too. I'm from down south, a lot of fields. I did it myself. So that's what I'm giving to you. I'm explaining to you the premium that the residents are paying down there, especially the ones that are on the water. And I will tell you that the first thing I did is warn my children, because people take that stop sign, like Winston and Alone. They don't run the stop sign. They go through the stop sign 30 miles an hour. And I can only tell you, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a policeman, I'm not a politician. But I'm smart enough to know that nowadays the police answer 911 calls, and that's about it. Because they're on the hook if they get out of the car and try to do anything other than that, and I understand that. I'm not trying to raise a separate argument here, but that's the facts on the ground. So the cops are not down there looking to ensure the safety of the residents. So why would we think by putting in a purple sliding board and a yellow set of monkey bars that all of a sudden the police are going to come down there and create a safe situation? And how do I know? Human nature is human nature. People smoke cigarettes, they throw their butts on the ground. They drink their coffee, they throw their cups on the ground. It'll be the residents down there that'll be cleaning up the streets when everyone else is done having a good time. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Karen Ottenstein. Karen Ottenstein. Good afternoon.
My name is Karen Ottenstein. I'm at 3490 the State Court, which is all the way south on Winston Avenue, Peninsula. I'm a mother of 2 young kids also, 5 and 7 years old. I'm in favor of the park on Winston Avenue. You know, we're looking to really embrace the opportunity to do something on this land for the children. I do want to read a couple letters I have of some of my neighbors who are not able to attend today. So we're going to do that. The first is Lisa Farron. She's at 2347 Halyard Drive. And she writes, Dear Supervisor Centeno, I am writing this letter to be submitted on record as my support of the Winston Avenue Park Playground Project. Due to work commitment, I am unable to attend the meeting scheduled on October 3rd, but would like to voice my support on this matter. I moved here with both of my children in October of 2015 from New York City. My kids love to go to the playground and run around and play with the other kids. They often meet new friends there as well as meet up with friends they already know. As I'm sure you are aware, there are no playgrounds on this peninsula. I often drive to Belmore because they have numerous playgrounds available there. Not only did I move here with my kids, but I grew up around the block from the empty, more than underutilized park. My parents still live there. We have always said that the park was a sad waste of space in the neighborhood filled with children and young families. I chose to move back to the community that I grew up in, as did many of my friends. I think this playground will be a huge asset to this community, allowing us access to a simple playground space like the other areas of Merrick and Belmore have. My parents, my children, my friends would be extremely grateful to you for this much-needed improvement to the park. Thank you for your time and service to this amazing community. Warm regards, Lisa Barrett. This is another neighbor, Nicole Casella. She lives at 2765 Winston Avenue. She writes, I'm writing this letter to be submitted on record as my support of the Winston Avenue Park Playground project. Due to work obligations, I'm unable to attend the town board meeting, but I wanted to be heard and have the chance for my support to go on record. Our community is full of young families, and a playground in what is now an empty, underutilized lot will be a great addition to our neighborhood that will serve as a great place to meet and socialize for both children and adults. Currently, we do not have any children's play areas on the Winston Avenue Peninsula, and walking nearly 2 miles with my 7 and 4-year-olds to the other playgrounds on another peninsula is not feasible. The proposal that I have seen is for a simple playground that people in the area can walk to, just like the opportunity afforded to those living on the other peninsulas. I thank you for your time and your tremendous service to the town of Hempstead. I have one more I'm going to share. This is from Gary Blair, 302 Winston Avenue. Supervisor Santino, I need support of the park of Winston, and I will not. You approved this, you supported this, why the change of heart? You surveyed the community a year ago, and 2-to-1 people were in favor of this park, 2-to-1 in support. You represent the entire community, not a dozen homes. This park belongs to the entire community, not just a few homes. A few people are trying to dictate what is appropriate for the entire community. How is that fair? In May, you wrote the Civic Association to them that you were in support of this park as long as it did not cost the taxpayers money. So the Let's Play 11566 group was able to secure $175,000 in grants, and they raised another $25,000 in funds. This is not costing taxpayers any money, and yet you seem to be stalling. Please do the right thing. Please listen to the entire community, not a handful of angry people who bought homes adjoining the park and now want to keep it to themselves. It is our park too. Remember the hundreds of other homes who live there and want this. It belongs to the community. These homes do not pay more taxes than I do, so their wishes should not have more weight than mine or anyone else in the community. Our children deserve a playground on the Beulah Peninsula. I know that your representative knocked on some doors in the neighborhood. It's unfortunate that he only knocked on the doors of those people adjoining the park. He did not make his way up or down the block away from the park. Optically, it makes your vetting process feel biased. Do you not care to hear that anyone else says, or is he simply seeking to find data to support one-sided argument? Why with knocking on doors if you're not going to be fair and balanced? Unfortunately, I cannot attend this meeting due to work commitments, but I support this project, and the board should absolutely vote yes on this. Regards. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bridget, break. Okay. The stenographer needs to take a break for a couple of moments, so we will accommodate that, and we'll be back in about 5 to 10 minutes. Calling on Bridget Cohen. Bridget Cohen? Bridget Cohen. Good afternoon. Name and address for the record, please.
Bridget Cohen, 2036 Olive Way. I'm here to speak in favor of the park. I grew up on the Beulah Peninsula and was so happy to move back with my family. We were even more excited when we found out that Let's Play 11566 had gotten approval to start fundraising. This was the one thing missing from our dream home, a local park in walking distance. Adding a park to our neighborhood would only enhance the lives of our children and families. Please do not let those opposing few make the decision for hundreds of families in the neighborhood. Please do the right thing and let our children play. I have letters from some neighbors that couldn't be here today. The Alfonso family, 2903 Eula Avenue. Dear Mr. Anthony Santino, my name is Sarah. I'm writing on behalf of my family expressing our need for a neighborhood park and how we, along with the rest of the community, would greatly benefit from having one. My family and I moved to Merritt in September of 2015. Prior to moving here, we lived in Long Island City, where we enjoyed having several parks within walking distance. Parks are a wonderful, safe place to bring a community together to play and communicate. We were shocked when we moved here that the closest parks to go to were Newbridge Park and Julian Wayne Park. Although these are great parks, we must drive to them and we do not meet other children from our neighborhood. What was even more shocking is that there are 2 open fields within walking distance that aren't being used as a functional playground. We believe that a neighborhood park on Winsome would not only enhance the sense of community in Merrick, it would give our children a safe place to play and exercise. Being a mother of 2 children that not only both have asthma, but also have some delays in large motor skills, the benefit of a park would be great on them are great. Sorry. Having a park within walking distance would greatly enhance their health, but also give my son the opportunity to build and strengthen his muscles. In a time of age of horrible violence and hatred, it would be amazing to bring a beautiful park to the neighborhood that would make the community stronger and provide our children with needed exercise and lasting friendships. Thank you in advance for your consideration. Sarah Alfonso.
Thank you very much. Sharon Field. Good afternoon. Your name and address for the record. Name and address for the record, please.
Field 2164.
May I just pull out a little closer, maybe, if you could. Thank you very much.
I have been living at that address for 34 years. Second house off the corner of Alona and Vine. And raised my 2 children there from the age of 4 and 16 months. There are a few things that I don't have anything prepared, figuratively and literally. I'm old school, so it's all coming from here. Having lived here and raised my children here, who in turn purchased their own homes and are now raising their children here, right within the area of this parcel of land that should become a park. The only living creatures that seem to appreciate that park are the dogs that the people who live right surrounding that park bring there. Rather than putting their dogs in the car and going to Newbridge Road and taking the dogs to the doggy park at Newbridge Road Park, they bring their dogs right across the street and let them enjoy this big empty land. The other day I saw the dogs running around and there was one adult and one child standing on the cement walkway there. As far as the cars parked along Winsome on both sides, those homes are on the water. People seem to entertain a lot on the weekends in the summer. So yes, when you're traveling up and down Winsome, north or south, on the weekends, on beautiful days, these people are very gracious to their family and friends and host them. And yes, there are cars parked all around the streets there on both sides. As far as going through a stop sign at 30 miles an hour, you can't, because when Winsome ends, you have to make your right-hand turn onto Alona. We had police representatives, our police civic association. They said there, I believe he said there was 1 car accident within 4 years.
Reported. Let's please be respectful to the speaker.
Excuse me. We had to put our children, they talk about Julian Lane, they talk about Lakeside, they talk about Birch. There's even a park on April Lane in Belmore. Those, you have to put your children in the car and go there. This park is going to be a walking park. It's not going to be a driving park. It's not going to be, there are bigger and better parks around. This is going to be purely for a little outdoor activity, healthy activity for the children. It's not going to, it may create stroller traffic, but it's not going to create vehicular traffic. And as far as those cigarette butts and beer bottles, I doubt very much that the 2 to 5 year olds will be littering with that. And I don't think that the parents who are taking their children there will be doing that either. Again, I've lived there for 34 years. I was a stay-at-home mom, and so I was in that neighborhood all day, every day. And when the children came home from school, quite honestly, there was no place to go in the neighborhood in between school and dinner, where there's that in-between time where you want them to do something, to give them some activity, and if you did, you'd have to put them in the car and drive them somewhere. And it just seems that this is just a small-scale outdoor place for the community to get together and just raise children in a happy, safe environment and help the economy, the ecology, by not getting in a car and driving, by walking. So I thank you very much. I appreciate you listening to me. I appreciate what you do. And this is really for the children. And, you know, the dogs have their own park. The dogs have their own parks. How many doggy parks are there? There are a lot. And, you know, why can't we have something for the children?
Thank you very much. Rachel Makowski. Rachel Makowski. Here. Kate Lofton. Good afternoon. Your name and address for the record, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kate Lofton, and I live at 3063 Winston Avenue, directly across the street from the park. I have 3 school-age children, and I'm opposed to the park. I am not angry, as some letters seem to indicate that I might be, or they think I might be. I really hope that I become friends with many of these people that are even in favor of the park. But I do have to say that after being a Merrick resident for just about 50 years, and at my current location for just over a year, you don't need a playground to play. You take a ball, you take a mitt. All my children use the park regularly, and we take a lacrosse stick or a baseball, and we utilize that space. I am in favor of preserving a green space. I am not opposed to children playing. It's important that everybody understands what the difference is. I think it's also important that children get out and exercise and leave their iPads at home. But you can easily do that with the space that is over in the park. You take a jump rope. There's beautiful winding paths through the park. You learn how to ride a bike there. I would love to meet the people of the neighborhood, and I'm in the park and nobody's coming out to meet me. You don't need playground equipment to meet other neighbors or to enjoy a conversation or to network. Maybe if you just go out and enjoy the space and spread a blanket and sit under a tree, no matter what it is, it doesn't need equipment to get that job done. I also feel that we need to thoroughly vet the option, and honestly, I was thrilled to hear the letter from the woman on Halyard Drive, because that is the other open green space currently available that maybe would be a viable option and the compromise that we're all looking for. I think it would be a great space to put this playground that the peninsula seems to so badly want. That would affect far fewer homes if it went into that location, and it would also provide the opportunity for those people a little bit further down on the peninsula to have a place to go. the people that are closer into Merrick Road can have easier access to the other parks and schools that are available. So, as Mr. Goldsmith mentioned, it's only 3 blocks from the area that we're discussing right now. And I think if we postpone this and don't make a decision today, that maybe that would be a good solution for us all. As the letter mentioned, there are already a few people on Halyard Drive that are in favor of putting a playground in, and that could be the option that works for all of us. I think we owe it to each other to have some civil conversations and try and reach an agreement that works for everybody in this space. I did, in part, buy that house because of the beautiful lot that is across the street from my home, and I certainly don't think that I deserve to use it more than anybody else. But I do like looking at a green space. And we've already mentioned all the parks in the neighborhood, and there aren't very many green spaces that are there. If we look at the other space on Halyard Drive, there are no trees that might have to be taken down in order to provide for the playground. There would be less construction needed. So all I'm asking is that we sit together and take the opportunity to discuss this fairly and level-headedly. And as I mentioned, I don't want anybody to think that I'm angry over this prospect, because I'm not. But I think that there are options that we still need to vet. And as I mentioned, my 3 children use the park daily. It only takes a ball and a conversation and some smiles to get the community together. Thank you for your time.
Janice Kleiman.
Hi, I'm Janice Kleiman. I live at 2081 Berkeley Lane in Merrick. I would like to voice my opinion about the playground ready to be built in the Peninsula in South Merrick. This is a project that is so overdue. It can only enhance our community. I have lived in South Merrick for 27 years. I raised my 2 children in Merrick. I am now a grandparent whose grandchildren are now also living in the neighborhood. They deserve a place to play. It's crazy to have land that is not utilized in our community. This playground would be inviting to families interested in moving into the neighborhood. Finally, people have worked so hard for this playground. So do the right thing and allow the construction of this playground to begin. Our children and grandchildren have been waiting for this playground for many years. I have a bunch of letters, but, I just want to talk about the traffic in the area, because now I said I was a grandparent. I pick up my grandson from Fox Boulevard, from nursery school. Now lately, usually I would drive down Winston Avenue. Now that is a busy intersection, but that's the main road. I've been gearing myself to go down Winston. It's like a ghost town. There's no one driving there. There is nobody in the park. This is 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Let's show respect to the speaker. Let's show respect to the speaker. You can comment later if you wish.
I've been driving down with my grandson, and there is no traffic there at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and this is a beautiful area for a park. It says no ball playing on the gates. It says no dogs. Now, they're using it for their own personal playground, because you're not supposed to play ball in there. We need to utilize that area so that our children can play, they can meet each other, new neighbors, that they can, this is good for the kids. There's pictures. This is not a huge playground. It's a little jungle gym, a few pieces of equipment so that people can gather and play with their children. I would love to take my grandson after nursery to play in that area. It says no ball playing. So that would be great for the neighborhood. And as far as paying taxes, we all pay plenty of taxes in America. If you choose to live on the water, you pay that taxes. I live on a dead end, I might pay more taxes than someone else, but we all pay taxes and we all should be entitled to use that area for our children. It's a good thing. People that want to move into the neighborhood would find it a good thing to have a small community playground. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Joe Baker.
Good afternoon. My name is Joe Baker. I reside at 2642 Colonial Avenue, Merrick, and I'm a 68-year resident of Merrick. I live in the same house I was born and raised in. I'm also president of the South Merrick Community Civic Association. That has been a successful organization for the past 12 years. I founded it, and we've done a lot for the community. I want to thank Supervisor Santino and town council members for allowing me to speak, and those for and or against this issue. It's very important. I think it's very healthy that we get this out in the open. I was accused of being partial to this. I'm supposed to be impartial as a civic president, but I got to tell you, over 2 years ago, I had a bunch of residents that live on that Hewlett Avenue Peninsula and brought this issue to my desk. I analyzed it, I thought about it, went over it and over it and over it, and I said, you know what? Let me go down there and see what it looks like. I went down there on a Sunday afternoon when it was about 75 degrees. On the way down, I passed by Julian Lane Park. Julian Lane Park is, I believe, 1.8 miles away. That park was loaded with people, no problem parking. There were cars parked along the perimeter. Kids were laughing and parents were talking with each other and so on and so forth. I went down to Winston Avenue Park, and there wasn't one. It was, I think, a squirrel is what I saw. And I thought to myself, how sad is this? Now let me think about this very carefully before I take sides. Well, I decided that this probably, most likely, is a good thing for children. But not a carnival atmosphere type of a park where children can go down a slide, maybe giggle, and have the parents sit on a bench and talk on a warm Sunday afternoon. I'm hoping this comes to tuition. This is, I've been an advocate and a supporter of the town of Hempstead and elected officials for many years. Why? Because they've done very good for the community. I worked hand in hand with the town of Hempstead, with you, Supervisor Santino, on certain issues as prior administrations, and I thank you for that. I just hope as you vote, you think very hard. We had a meeting the other night where we had between 100 and 150 people show up. It got heated at times, but there were those that were able to let everyone come up and speak whatever they had to say, whether they were for it or against it. Most were for it. I believe you had a survey that was sent out that came back 2-1 in favor of the park. I understand that in addition you sent people, Mr. Mueller, one of the attorneys for the town, around to ask questions again. This is your typical NIMBYism situation. I live in Merrick 68 years. When I was a little kid, my parents bought a brand new house right near the new town of Hempstead incinerator. Well, I got to tell you, for years we had black soot on our cars. My father had to wash his car every day. We had to take showers almost every hour. That's real NIMBYism. This is for the children. This is for kids. And I'm all for working with other residents that live around the park. I don't think this should be a divisive issue. This should be something we can all work together on, and I believe it will be done that way, as long as I'm president of the Civic Association. I think I've covered it all. Again, Like Mrs. Field, I'm old-fashioned. I don't have a prepared speech. I'm really talking from the heart and talking the way I feel. I have 5 grandchildren, and they don't live within the town of Hempstead. But when I bring them to Merrick, I like to go to the local park. And again, the only local park that we have on my peninsula is Julian. On the other peninsula, there is no playground. It's a park, but it's not a play. There's no playground. I really think this should be installed. Anyway, I hope you all, as council members, make the right decision when you vote, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, sir. Ally Goldsmith. Ally Goldsmith. Ally Goldsmith. There you go.
I was talking to the gentleman in the back about whether it was appropriate to be videoed while we had these discussions. My name is Ally Goldsmith. I live at 2174 Vine Drive, directly across the street from the park, and I am an opponent to the park. Just out of curiosity, and just because I see so many familiar faces in here, and I don't see as many after the last recess, of the people that are here that are in support of the park, can they stand just so I know who they are? Because many of these people are my...
I think we just, at this point, ma'am, please just make your thoughts known.
Okay. Well, my thoughts on that, if they would stand, just to show who they are, my thought with that was, many of those people that are here in support of the park do not live by the park. They're speaking on issues that they have zero knowledge about. I live by the park. I see the traffic. I see what goes on with the upkeep of the park. And I see what goes on with the community, because I live there. Now, I think we can all agree that there are many issues that are outstanding when it comes to this park before it should be developed. The safety, the environmental concerns, the fact that we don't know what kind of things that we'll bring in to this park. Some of my neighbors concerned the fact that maybe, kids are going to be causing riffraff in the park. We don't know what type of policing is going to be going on. We don't know the congestion in the parking that's going to cause issues in that small, deep area of South Merrick. These are all unknowns. Why this needs to be decided today, at this junction, blows my mind. The only reason that I can think of, logically, is one, and that is political. The children of this area deserve a well-thought-out, well-zoned, appropriate space to play. Whether that is a park with jungle gyms and slides and swings, I don't know. But why this needs to be decided at this moment, without all these other things lined up, having our ducks in a row, is besides me. I don't know. I don't get it. What's the rush? I'd also like to speak to this. I have 3 children. 2 of them are twin girls that are 7 years old. They enjoy, like myself, many of the beautiful parks that South Merrick and North Merrick have to offer, all within walking distance and driving distance, if I choose to, of the Winston Park. I also have a 12-year-old son. My son regularly goes to that park with his friends, teenagers, pre-teenagers, and throws a football around, organizes an informal soccer game, runs around, plays tag, without worrying about a jungle gym in the back corner or little babies on blankets and playing on sandboxes. There is not a single place that I can think of in South Merrick where he could safely do that without having young parents complain that they might be hurting their children accidentally. Doesn't he deserve a place to play as well? Because he's too old to go on swings. He's too old to go on jungle gyms. Let me reiterate, that is the only place in South Merrick where a child, 11, 12, 13, can go and run around and have old-fashioned fun. There are so many issues facing our community. There is the drug issue, which I hear about, by the way, on Merrick Moms all the time. Many of the people who complain about the drug paraphernalia on the parks are sitting here today, hypocrites, wanting another park. I hear concerns about locking your cars because there's all kinds of crime in the area, people getting their cars broken into. And I also hear about the, oh my God, they put in a 7-Eleven across the street from our children's school. What is that going to bring in? And you know what? They were right. There was a robbery. I had no problem with it, by the way. There is a really big problem here, and that is the rush. And I really strongly feel that it is on all of you, our elected officials, to really consider what you're doing before you rush to push this budget along. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Goldstein. Thank you very much. Diane Madden. Name and address for the record.
Diane Madden, Hempstead. My ears went up when I heard Mr. Mueller was going door to door. Could someone please explain to me in a little more detail if Mr. Mueller was going door to door, if he visited the homes of people that support this park? I am very concerned, aside from this issue, that Mr. Mueller introduces himself as your personal attorney, Mr. Santino. So I just want to have a better idea of his participation in this issue.
Mr. Town Attorney, would you address that, please?
I think that anything that Mr. Mueller did is in the context of being an attorney, and I'm not going to comment on that. If you'd like to, if there is a record of who went out, if anybody did go out, who went out, and if you'd like to foil that, if there is a record, you'll make it available to you.
So foil, you're suggesting that the people that were not interviewed or they didn't receive a visit from Mr. Mueller to foil to find out who did?
I don't have firsthand knowledge of this, but I think we've kind of hit everybody through our outreach, through a mailing and maybe ringing doorbells. But I think we kind of reached everybody.
Actually, Mr. Rowe, I think you're totally right that we reached everyone. When the folks from Let's Play came to my office, and right away I said, okay, let's bring it. I'm not from South Merrick, I'm not from Merrick, and so I don't know the community as well as these people do. Let's bring in the Parks Commissioner to sit down and find out what the ideas are, what's the Town Hempstead process, and I had just finished, or actually was in the middle of the Point Lookout Park project. So I was somewhat familiar with the process. So the Parks Commissioner, we had a map. Actually, Sean and Jay came with a bunch of signatures that showed support for the park. And there was a lot of people supported it. And I believe it was the commissioner. Does somebody speak? So I believe it was a Parks Commissioner who said, okay, that's great that you have all of those letters in support, but we can't accept that. We have to do our own survey. And we did our own survey. It was asked and answered, and it was 2-to-1 in favor. And this isn't my park, this isn't my neighborhood, it's not Wantagh Woods, where I have a real feel for it, but we did the survey, and it was 2-to-1 in favor. And now Mr. Mueller, the last couple of days, has selectively gone to homes, because I know one home for sure was not visited. Because she's been a vocal advocate for the park, and I also understand that Mr. Mueller was telling people who are opposed to the park to, quote, bring out your cavalry. And I'm not sure that it's the role of the town lawyer to be an advocate one way or the other for a park.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, this whole thing stinks to me for a number of reasons. And who says no to children? I mean, this is not, I understand the neighbors in the area may be a little spoiled and use this property for their own purposes, but if this can be used for children, who says no? What are you going to do with all of these children if this is an issue that's going on for over a year? Are you going to take a photo up, Supervisor Santino, with all the children you say no to that are looking forward to a park?
What is the purpose of this speech at this point? Really? Where do you even live?
Ma'am, please finish up now. Let's
That gives you one
maintain
example.
good order in the audience on both sides.
Trust me, the children of South Mary, not
Let's maintain good order in the audience, and please continue your remarks.
Like I said, for a number of reasons, I think there are many concerns about this issue. I don't have to live across the street to have an opinion, and I do have an opinion. I think that this should be tabled, and there should be more feedback from both sides. And those numbers that Councilwoman Sweeney just mentioned would be concerning to me, that more people are in support than against it. And we're always talking about keeping our children in Hempstead. What's the message you're sending here? There's no place for you to play? Have a nice day.
Michael Capuano. Michael Capuano. There we go. Your name and address for the record, Mr. Capuano.
Mike Capuano, South Mary. I just wanted to say the idea of the park and the playground sounds good on the surface, but the reality of it is you live nearby, it's a lot of noise, a lot of traffic in the daytime, and that's 7 days. It's not something that's one day, it's all day, it could be any time in the morning. And the nighttime brings more of the activity that you don't really want also. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Howard Tuckman. Howard Tuckman. Howard Tuckman.
Yeah, I'm coming. So this is a picture of what they're proposing to build. They wanted me to show you.
Your name and address for the record, though, sir, let's please. Your name and address for the record.
Howard Tuckman, 2977 Hewlett Avenue. I live less than half a mile from the proposed park. Thank you. First-time speaker and attendee at one of these meetings, long-time Hempstead resident. As a neighbor of the park, I am very excited to watch my local government in action. Getting something done today. To be here in person, to watch this resolution pass after more than 1.5 years, not being rushed, of collecting signatures, approvals, and of course thousands of dollars. Much harder to get a signature, right? Much easier to get a signature than it is to actually collect money from people. I would have loved to bring my 6-year-old and 2-year-old here today, but of course they're in school. They're super excited at the prospect of having a park that we could walk to. I wanted to thank the board and for all those here today who contributed their time, money, and effort to making this a possibility. I am a humble person, and I'm not quick to assume, but I have no doubt that the pending vote on this resolution is nothing more than one small and final administrative hurdle. Here's why. It's a minimally invasive park. The people who went to create this park had the foresight to say no lights, no basketball court, just a couple jungle gyms. I think I actually heard someone who was opposed to the park saying the jungle gym and babies will get in the way of their 12-year-olds. I mean, come on, we're just being silly here. Mr. Santino had personally asked for the grant money to be approved, which had happened, and we had a 2-to-1 support for the park. 2-to-1 is absurd. I can't get my friends to agree 2-to-1 where to go to lunch. To have people go 2-to-1 to agree on anything is a pretty overwhelming majority. Last week, Supervisor Santino sent the representative, Mr. Muller, to a South Merrick Civic Association meeting to hear from the town. 2 signs to me that this was very positive. Number 1, Mr. Santino, I don't blame you for not coming. Would have been a waste of your time. This is a very simple, no-brainer issue. It's a park. It's a jungle gym. Why come? And Mr. Muller very eloquently said, well, if there are legitimate reasons why we should not have this park, that is cause for concern and we should hear people out who have legitimate reasons. Well, I'm happy to say there have been no legitimate reasons brought up. Not at the meeting last week, nor today. What we did here was inventing traffic statistics, inventing things about safety, imaginary beer bottles, and all kinds of hypotheticals about noise. We don't know what kind of noise will come. Really? Is this the first park ever built in Hempstead? We don't know what kind of noise will be at a park? I think we know what kind of noise it'll be. Children laughing, playing. Oh no. 4, our children don't get a voice in government. And when we do something for them, it's a win for the community. It's a chance to show the children the value of civics. How do you suppose the vote would turn out if you just asked the children how they felt about a playground? The board members know because they care for families and know children need a voice too. Lastly, an amazing job was done raising money through donations and grants. Supervisor Santino and members of the board, I believe you all will agree. This is the epitome of that hashtag you love throwing out there, doing more with less. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tuckman. Eileen Rogoff. Name and address for the record, please. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone. Eileen Rogoff, 2768 Boundary Road in Belmore. I speak from my heart. I raised my children in Belmore. I'm from Belmore. I've been in my present home for 31 years. My children love the community. My son and his family now live in Merrick. I have 3 wonderful grandchildren. I'm with them as much as possible. This is a park. I think a park is a lovely addition to a community. I have no more to say.
Thank you. Andrea Gawanta. Andrea Gawanta. Hi, your name and address for the record, please, and good afternoon.
My name is Andrea Gawanter, and I live at 1927 Julian Lane in Merrick. I'm here to talk today because I offer somewhat of a unique perspective that might answer some of these questions. I live across the street from Julian Lane right now. And when I was moving to Merrick, I have 2 children, 7 and 10 years old, and I moved here, my son was 1.5 years, and there was nothing better than living across the street from that park. If I had 10 minutes, if I had an hour, whatever it was, I was new to the neighborhood, we had a ton of friends, he made a ton of friends, and I know everybody knows that. But the concerns that were raised, I can speak to. Parking, never an issue. I live a couple of houses down across the street. We never really see an issue with parking that I can speak to. In terms of the way that the park is maintained, we're there almost every day, every other day, and the garbage is picked up. I never see beer bottles or anything like that has come across, when my kids are playing there. We always feel safe. I don't see children, teenagers hanging out there at night. It never really seems to be an issue. It's locked every night. It's open in the morning. And it's really only been a positive experience living on that block. During the day, I agree with what everyone said, the noise, if there's any noise at all, it's children laughing, playing. And in terms of the green space that keeps coming up, I just want to speak to that. I have a 10-year-old son who plays football and soccer at that park in plenty of green space. And my understanding is that this proposal is actually a much smaller jungle gym, if you want to call it that. So I don't think that will be an issue. I think there'll be plenty of space for the older children to continue to bring a soccer ball across the street and play. And there'll be an opportunity for the younger children to also play on the jungle gym. So there's a bunch of letters, but I think I'm just going to hand those in because I think you've heard all that.
Correct.
I'm sorry?
Yes, just submit them to the clerk for the record.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time. Claire Casdorf. Claire Casdorf.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Claire Kasdorf. I live at 3037 Winston Avenue in Merrick. I have lived there for approximately 41 years. During my 41 years, I have observed a lot that has gone on in that park. I have observed my mother's car being hit due to the fast rate of speed that people travel on Winston Avenue. I have observed cars hitting the fence over the years. I have observed, even though the park is locked at night, I have observed teenagers hopping over the fence with bottles and observing the bottles the broken bottles the following morning. I have observed cars entering from Winston Avenue during the day and driving through from Winston Avenue onto Alona Avenue. That has happened numerous times over the years. They have driven on the sidewalk part, going from one part of Winston Avenue and exiting onto Alona Avenue. I have observed on a constant daily basis over the years dogs in the park, running free. I have a 2-year-old grandson. I cannot always even bring my grandson into that park to play with him, just to kick a ball around, because these dogs are running free, and that happens on a constant basis. I have even asked people over the years if they could just put their dog on a leash, and they always say, oh, my dog won't hurt anyone. Well, how do I know that? I don't trust that. So that's another problem that we have. In addition to the dog park that was built on Newbridge Road, I live right across the street, I live on the water, but you can hear that dogs barking in that park on a constant basis. Every evening I hear that. There is another much better area for this park for the children on Halyard Drive. I walk through that neighborhood constantly, and there is nothing in that park. There's not a tree, there's not a park bench, so I think that would be an alternative to the Winston Avenue Park. And Newbridge Park, we have all those other parks, Lakeside and Montauk. We have so many other parks for the children that they could use. And that's about all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jamie Field. Okay. We'll wait. Take your time.
Lose your turn. Don't they lose their turn?
See, young woman with a baby. It's quite all right. Take your time.
He's here because he had
Hope you feel better. Okay, name and address for the record.
My name is Jamie Field. I live at 2103 Ellen Drive in Merrick. Thank you for having me speak. I have a few things to go through. First off, the community was really excited about this project. This is an awesome experience to have people in our community get together for the benefit of our children. The people that you had here today who submitted letters and who spoke are a subset of the population who is pro this park. We surveyed the community in terms of petitions and in terms of soliciting money, and the $25,000 that was raised speaks to the community members who support this. It is very, very, very difficult to ask your friends for money. We did it. They reached into their pockets for the benefit of the children, and they put money up to support this effort in response to an approval that was received from the park. That is a really humbling experience. It is very difficult to do that, and we did it. And we think that the thousands of dollars, the tens of thousands of dollars that we raised speaks volumes towards the support for this effort. I want to speak about a couple of other points that were raised here. I mean, how far should a playground be from someone's house? Is 2 miles is 20 miles right? I mean, this is a community with children in it, and we want to build something that they can play on and then go home.
It's going to be locked in the morning. It's going to be locked at night. It is for a finite period of the day that we want them to enjoy this structure, this small structure, you know, in this Greenland. One other point that I want to raise is brought up potentially to look at Halyard as another option. Halyard has one entrance and one exit. The park on the park on Winston rather, is larger. It has 2 entrances and 2 exits. So in the event of an emergency situation, this is an appropriate place to build a playground. It's safer. Dogs are brought up all the time. It is true. This park right now is for the benefit of the dogs. The dogs are off their leash. The dogs are roaming this park, and that's who's really enjoying it, as opposed to the people and the kids enjoying this space. I'm going to read one letter. Excuse me. Dear Mr. Baker, my administration is committed to being fiscally responsible to the residents of the town of Hempstead while providing top-notch services, programs, and renovated facilities. I believe your organization shares in that commitment to the residents of Merrick. I support your fundraising effort to provide a playground at Winston and Alona. We would be more than happy to provide the land and upkeep of the proposed playground as long as the initial costs are no expense to the taxpayer, including no initial outlay of funds, whether or not they are reimbursable. If I can be of any assistance, please don't hesitate to contact my office. I wish you much success in your fundraising effort. Sincerely, Anthony J. Sanders. I have a lot of respect for those who are opposing the park. I understand they have their views. What I have a hard time respecting is reversing a decision that was made to hundreds of kids in the area to bring this project to fruition. We've privately raised funds, we've received grants, and now we're coming to a screeching halt and we're reversing the decision. We need to respect the decision that was made. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Patty Abramson. Patty Abramson.
Good afternoon. My name is Patty Abramson. I live at 3080 Winston Avenue. Opposed to the park. I really don't have anything else to add that my neighbors haven't already said. I think it's important that we have an opportunity to really present options and really research this. I don't think that those of us who live around the park were afforded that opportunity. And I think that we should be able to come together and see if all our needs could be met in a better way before we rush into a decision. That's all I have to say on that. Thank
you. Stephanie Ovadia, I believe she may have spoken. Okay. Andrew Pollock, looks like to me.
Good afternoon.
Do you have any name and address for the record?
I'm Andrew Pollock. I live at 2163 Vine Drive, which is directly across from the south entrance to the current park. I have not one but 2 5-year-old children, who I'm sure both very much would enjoy yet another playground in the area. My wife and I, however, are firmly against the addition of this proposed playground. Sure, we have concerns about the increase in parked cars lining our streets, an increase in litter, concerns about lighting or lack thereof, but there is just one major reason that we are so opposed. Just one reason that I challenge any parent here today to convince me that our logic and reasoning is flawed. Our one major reason is the safety and well-being of our children. It is a fact that there will be an increase in cars and traffic flow to the direct area. There is already a steady flow of daily traffic, but should you choose to install a playground, the ongoing flow of cars will be increased. Be it by 5% or 50%, time will only tell. This new playground and its resulting increase in traffic will bring not only a decreased quality of life to all residents whose homes border the park, but more importantly, a decrease in the daily safety of our children. Where are the newly proposed crosswalks, stop signs, traffic enforcement? Talk to us first about keeping our children safe before you talk to us about adding yet another local playground for them to simply have fun. In short, my opposition of this playground is for, again, one main reason, that I prefer to keep my children and the children who live in our immediate area safe. Shouldn't this be the priority of our town? Shouldn't these safety issues first be handled and only then a playground considered? How could any reasonable parent in attendance here today disagree with this sentiment? Think about it for a moment. How could any reasonable, responsible person be in favor of a playground that will be built at the expense of children's safety? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fox. Michael Coolio? Marco Coolio? First. Okay. Sorry about that, I should have been able to do a better job. Please, name and address for the record.
Michael Marco Tullio.
Close. I was close.
3031 Winston Avenue.
Good afternoon, sir.
My house is directly across from the entrance to the park on Winston. It was mentioned earlier, the turn coming down Winston Avenue is blind turn. I know that there was a police officer that said there was only one reported accident in that location in the last 3 years, but I've lived in the house for 23 years and I can tell you that there's been more than a dozen. All of them are single car accidents, which are never reported. The fence across the street from my house has been knocked down 4 times because people lose control on that curve, jump the curb, they hit the tree, they hit the fire hydrant, and they hit the fence. They don't report it. A lot of times they're drunk. It happens. The bottom line is that people show you a picture of a fence with a, I guess that was repaired. The reason it was repaired was because a car went right through it. Last month, my son's car, we woke up in the morning, came out, and my son's car was hit. Parked out in front of our house, on the outside of the curb. Why? Because someone came around that blind curve, lost control, and hit the car. My neighbor mentioned her mom's car that was stolen, that happened. It is what it is. This is not a safe place to have little 5, 7-year-olds running around. Feel very, very strongly about it. Another thing, people, I know I've heard a lot about surveys and 2 to 1 and all in favor of it. We had a meeting at the golf course facility 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, and Miss Erin King was there. And one of the promoters for this project submitted a satellite map of the park and all the houses around it, and every house had a big green Y or a big red N or an undecided. Well, I can tell you that the survey that Mr. Santino originally got, which was probably what he based his original conclusions on, was flawed. It was done in a biased way, and the fact is, and Miss Sweeney King was there, my own house was indicated as a yes. Not only that, my next door neighbor, who you heard from, who's a clear no, was indicated as an undecided, and the next door neighbor to that, who's also a clear no or against it, was indicated as a yes. So I don't know where this 2 to 1 comes from, but I understand why Mr. Muller maybe felt compelled to go around and ask people, because according to their survey, more than half the people that surround the park were in favor of it, and it's just not the case. We have had very little correspondence with this group. They came 2 years ago and they asked us about it. I made it clear I was against it. I gave them my reasons why, the parking, safety, all these other things. and we never heard another thing. The only reason I knew there was a meeting 2 weeks ago was because Mr. Mueller told me. They would have hidden that from us as well. So I don't believe that things have been done above board. I don't think that we've really had a chance to go through this completely, get everyone that's involved in it, opinions and expressions out. And I think that at this point in time, as other people have said, the best move would be to table this vote, bring it up at another time. Because, you know, people talk about these parks. Look, it's green space. Sure, there are places where you want to have a lot of activity, and, you know, Julian Avenue, there's tennis courts, and there's playgrounds, and it's wonderful, and it's noisy, and nobody loves the sound of laughing kids more than me. My wife and I raised our kids, and, you know, we get a lot of joy out of it. But there's also space that you want to have for quiet reflection. Green space, without multicolored jungle gyms and slides and all these things that are brightly colored. Okay, it's wonderful for children, but this is a green space. This is a nature preserve. This is something where people can go for quiet reflection, where people can kick a ball around. All my kids learn to ride their bike there. And I just want to bring up one more point. This happened probably 15 years ago, because I have a key to that park. And the reason I do is because there was an incident where a young boy was severely burned by scalding hot water in a house, you know, during someone's, you know, family gathering.
I'm going to have to ask you to wrap it up. Okay, if you can.
I will, thank you. And they flew a helicopter into that park at night to evacuate. They had to wait for the town guy to come to unlock it. The police officer said, give him a key, because if it happens again, they'll knock on my door, I'll open it, they can get the helicopter in there and get him out right away. The point that I'll make is, I don't know where they're going to put this facility. To me, evacuating someone that needs emergency medical assistance is a lot more important than having another playground when there's one only a mile away in Julian Avenue. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, that's the last stuff I have, so at this point, I will move that we reserve decision on this matter. Okay, the motion is call the roll, please. Call the roll. Call the roll.
I just want to read a letter from Assemblyman McDonough. That's all.
Read the letter. We'll call the motion. We're going to call the roll after you read the letter.
This is dated September 29th. It's from Assemblyman Dave McDonough. Dear Supervisor Santino, I'm writing on behalf of my constituents who have contacted me regarding the aforementioned proposal for the installation of a playground at the Winston Avenue Park in Merritt. The residents, who for many years have raised funds to purchase the playground equipment, are eager to see this project come to fruition and have asked me to express their support for this resolution. I would greatly appreciate it if you would take their request into consideration when reviewing the proposed resolution. Thank you for your attention to this matter. I also have a letter that I believe that the town clerk has already received from County Legislator Denise Ford. There's been a lot of misinformation by Mr. Mueller and others in the administration that were very critical of Nassau County for allegedly not timely reimbursing the town in connection with the Point Lookout Park project. So I'll post this online so everyone can see this, and this is a county legislator who's explaining what actually did happen.
Okay, call the roll, Madam Clerk.
Supervisor Santino.
On to reserve decision, aye.
Councilman Ambrosino.
Given the fact that this is a local concern, I'm going to pass it this time until I hear from Councilwoman King.
Councilman Blakeman.
I'd like to explain my vote before I vote to reserve decision. First of all, I can sympathize with the people who oppose the park. I grew up at 50 Kent Road in Valley Stream, directly across the street from Memorial Junior High School. When my parents bought the house, there were hundreds of children that would go to Memorial Junior High School every morning, and then they would go home in the afternoon. There was a lot of traffic, bike traffic, pedestrian, car traffic. After the baby boom, Memorial Junior High School expanded. So my parents saw the junior high school expand from hundreds of kids to over 1,000 kids. More traffic, more people. Then they built ball fields, and we watched as they had Little League games every afternoon, every Saturday, every Sunday, then midget football, and then somewhere in the 90s, there was the soccer boom, and then we had soccer leagues every weekend, practice every weekday. Basically, it was being used constantly. And I remember a friend of my mother's came over for lunch one day, and she said, "How can you put up with all this activity at your house?" And my mother said, "I enjoy watching the children play. I knew what I was doing when I told my husband that I wanted to live here. I wanted my children to be able to walk to school and walk home from school." So basically, I grew up in that environment, and I have to tell you, to this day, my father's 92 years old. I go to visit him. There's still tremendous amount of activity. I can remember a few weeks ago I was watching girls softball practice. I thought it was hysterical. I enjoyed watching the kids play. Basically what we're talking about is a park. And one of the illogical things that I heard here today was people talk about traffic. Well, to the opponents of this, I don't find logic in your argument because basically to use a playground, you've indicated that you have to travel 1 mile to 1.8 miles. That means you're going to get in your car. Versus a neighborhood park where families can walk their kids to the park. So I find that illogical. But more importantly, the reason why I'm voting against reserving decision is because I want it clear from the record that I would vote in favor of the park. And the reason I would is as follows. In the town of Hempstead, we have had a tradition forever of deferring to the local council member on issues that were purely local. This is a purely local issue. Dennis Dunn knows more about Levittown than I do. Anthony D'Esposito knows more about Oceanside than I do. I know more about my district than they do. And if Councilman Erin King-Sweeney has worked hard on this, and in her opinion, in her judgment, in her district, she thinks it's a good idea, there would have to be an overwhelming argument, not just an argument against, because I understand the opposition and I respect your opposition, but it would have to be overwhelming for me to vote against a fellow member of this town board in an issue that was purely local. And I'm reminded all the time by Senior Councilman Gooseby about deferring to issues in her district, and I think we all feel the same way. And I'm voting against reserving decision because basically I think this is a ploy for the funding to run out.
Councilman, so your answer is no.
I'm not done yet.
Councilman,
I'm not done yet.
Please.
You're the clerk and I'm the councilman.
She's calling.
Councilman D'Esposito.
I am not done.
Are we recording you as a no on the motion?
You're not recording anything until I'm finished.
Councilman D'Esposito.
Yes.
Councilman Dunn.
Yes.
This is unprecedented. I vote no.
Councilwoman Gooseby.
Disgraceful.
Councilman Gooseby.
I'm going to have to abstain because of the fact that there's something coming up in my district, and I do not expect her to be involved.
Councilman King-Sweeney.
Actually, as part of my time, I'd like Councilman Blakeman to continue what he was saying.
There is no under our rules.
Yes, you
There
would
are
let me
no
speak
under our
before.
rules.
You would let me speak before. I would
Mr.
like Councilman Blakeman.
Town Attorney, there's no ceding the time under our rules. So you can use your time. You can use your time.
That we're allowed to speak.
Mr. Town Attorney.
Councilwoman, go ahead.
Attorney.
This is ridiculous. Go ahead. I've said enough.
You can't make this up. I'm going to let this is being videoed. In any event, I truly respect the opponents of this park. I invited them into my home. They came to my house on Sunday. I respect your concerns. I will continue to meet with you should we be able to go forward with this park. I have committed to you that I will do everything I can with regard to stop signs, fences, any of those types of issues, you can call me on that publicly. I will continue to work with you, and I will continue to work with you on other issues important to the South Merrick community. When I spoke at the South Merrick Civic meeting the other week, I started off by sort of making a joke, saying I had these two really organized, smart, professional men come to me with an idea, and it was the only town in my district that I lost. And I thought, well, I don't really have any support here to start off with, and so I really got to listen to these guys. What are they talking about here? How can we make the residents of South Merrick happy? The last thing I want to do is annoy yet another resident of South Merrick because they voted overwhelmingly against me. So when we had that survey, it was certainly in my political interest to have the survey conducted so that it adequately represented the residents of South Merrick. And it came back 2-1. I'm not aware of any political context or governmental context when you have a 2-1 vote and that would not be representing the people in the district. I would love for it to be 100%. It would make my job a lot easier. But in this case, I really am listening to the overwhelming majority of the residents. And what has been, I think a lot of people for and against are very frustrated about this process. And because there have been so many misstatements by the supervisor, that's why we are where we are. Today's vote is not whether we're going to build a park tomorrow, it's to secure the county funding that Legislator Rhodes has so ably done, that Senator Brooks, please tell your boss thank you, who has been able to do at the state level for $100,000. We have secured all this funding based on the supervisor's request to Legislator Rhodes to do so. So I keep saying this was asked and answered. They did everything that we've asked them to do. Now you have a bunch of people in South America who raised $25,000. What are they supposed to do with it? I mean, there's all sorts of nonprofit issues, ethical issues here. What do you do with the money? You put these people out on a limb. You know how many people in the community attended these fundraisers who threw $20 into a hat and based on good faith that they were going to have a park for their kids? Absolutely will fix the fence. Well, there's no question that I will do my best to fix the fence. I will certainly request that the commissioner fix the fence. You're right, it should be fixed. And I'm sorry I didn't realize it before. You're absolutely right. But there's a fence issue and there's a park issue, and when you have 2-1 of the residents supporting something, it's my obligation to support them. So in any event, I am obviously opposed to reserving judgment, and at least in my brief tenure here on the board, 3 years, I've never seen a scenario where you have a local project and other members of the board opposed it. So this is a stunning lack of leadership by the supervisor.
Councilman Agostino?
Pictures.
I just want to make one thing clear now.
You can't speak. You already
Please.
voted. You already voted.
I'm running the meeting.
You're in the middle of the vote. We're listening.
I am going to speak.
No.
Please don't. We clearly have a community that is divided over this issue. There are people who are very vehemently for it, and there are people very, very adamantly against it. I think, would you please, we have people who are very strongly in favor of it, people who are very strongly against it. I believe, please let me finish, I believe that it would be in the best interests of the community that we try to achieve better consensus, that we try to find a solution that unanimity may not be possible, but we achieve some sort of consensus that at least has much broader support than we have now. I don't think there's anything wrong with discussion. I don't think there's anything wrong with people trying to come up with a compromise. This country was built on compromise. I think that is the best course of action in the interest of all the residents. The funding is not going to run out. The funding is there. There is no reason why we have to rush to do this today, because clearly there are a lot of people against it, a lot of people for it, and perhaps the good people of Merrick, the good people of this neighborhood, could achieve some form of consensus that at least does not leave one side or the other strongly opposed. Maybe there's some kind of common middle ground here.
Supervisor, do we have a new standard now for all community projects that it's 90%? You had 2 to 1. At what point is it okay?
I made myself, I don't know where we are. I don't know where we are.
Actually, it's a good question. What's the new standard?
Okay, so
is there a different standard for East Rockaway?
We're waiting on.
Councilman Ambrosino, how do you vote?
Let me explain my vote. I would normally give great deference to Councilwoman King Sweeney, and I'm counting the math here. Senior Councilwoman Gooseby has abstained from this vote. Therefore, if I were to join with Councilman Sweeney and vote down the motion to reserve decision, and then a vote would have to be taken on the item would fail, because it would not pass by a majority, because Councilwoman Gooseby would abstain again. Therefore, basic math would dictate it be a split vote and the item would fail. Following Supervisor Santino to keep this item alive, and I am not voting against Councilwoman Sweeney because it is an item in her district, but I would very much like to keep the item alive in her district. Therefore, I join with the supervisor and vote to reserve decision.
Okay, that's concluded. Now we need a motion to adjourn the meeting. The senior councilwoman, it's the senior councilwoman's up.
That we adjourn the meeting.
Did Dunn vote?
Okay.
Done.
Oh, we did vote. So now this is on the motion to adjourn the meeting. So call the roll on adjourning the meeting.
Supervisor Santino.
Aye.
Councilman Ambrosino. Councilman Blakeman. Aye. Councilman D'Esposito. Aye. Councilman Dunn. Aye. Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilwoman King Sweeney.
Okay, the board now will take a short recess prior to public comment.
Clear the room.
Everybody ready? Everybody going? All right, the ones of us who are here will listen to you. Dominic Califano. Rich, S-C-H-U-R-I-N, Schuler. Ms. Pearl Jacobs.
Pearl Jacobs, Uniondale. I'm the president of the North Garden Civic Association. I will be speaking on behalf of the members of my civic association as a result of the meeting last night. Sorry that Supervisor Santino's not here. I really want to speak directly to him, but that's okay. I'll put it on public record.
That's a meeting that he has to attend.
That's okay. It'll go on public record. Thank you. I'm going to read a letter that was sent out to the Franklin Square neighbors by Supervisor Santino. It says, Franklin Square neighbors deserve transparency on the St. Catherine of Siena dormitory plan, and residents deserve to have their voices heard. Dear Franklin Square neighbor, recently Franklin Square neighbors learned about a plan to place dormitory-style apartments at the St. Catherine of Siena convent property. The plan would essentially provide for multi-family housing in a neighborhood that is comprised totally of single-family homes. The applicant for the project, broken but not destroyed, has placed a notice on the subject property. Unfortunately, the applicant has apparently done little to reach out to the surrounding community to gain the input of neighbors. The applications associated with this planned dormitory apartment will come before the Board of Appeals, which is completely separate and distinct from the town board on which I serve. And while I am prohibited from participating in the decision-making process of the Board of Appeals, I personally oppose this application. I have attached a response card below so that you can let your position be known to the Board of Appeals, along with other concerned Franklin Square neighbors. As a resident of Unionville, I find this very hypocritical. I have a statement. Supervisor Santino, in your letter to Franklin Square neighbors, you stated that your opposition to the plan that would provide multifamily housing in a neighborhood that is comprised totally of single-family homes. You stated that residents deserve to have their voices heard. Residents of Uniondale have voiced their frustrations for years regarding the lack of code enforcement that has directly contributed to the decline in quality of life for Uniondale residents. At my civic meeting just last evening, residents were complaining about single-family homes where upwards of 12 to 15 people reside in one home, where garages are reconstructed into illegal apartments, where single-family homes are divided into upwards of 8 to 10 single rooms for illegal boarding purposes. In addition to these being blatant building code violations, these illegal living conditions are egregious fire safety violations. Yet no action is taken by the town of Hempstead to address these most serious building violations in Uniondale. Why aren't the voices of Uniondale residents heard by you? Or do you only hear and advocate for areas of particular demographics? It was mentioned in this meeting earlier today that the town of Hempstead representative went door to door inquiring as to their opinions regarding park issues in Merrick. And that's okay, but why can't a town of Hempstead representative together with code enforcement go to door in Uniondale inquiring as to their opinions regarding their quality of life? Again, I would ask, do you only advocate for areas of particular demographics? Additionally, at my meeting last night, residents are calling for and requesting that the town of Hempstead add more evening meetings so that they may attend.
Okay. Do you have any addresses of those homes that you're referring to?
I have a list on my computer, and I will share them with you, okay?
Okay, would you give them to us, please? As soon as you do that, we'll give them to the health department.
Thank you, bye-bye.
Would you be able to send a copy, give us a copy of the letter? You send it to us?
I will send it.
Okay, thank you. All right, Ms. Valerie Lamps. Mary Ellen Craig.
Good afternoon, Mary Ellen Craig, Uniondale. I'd like to express appreciation for the grant to the Uniondale Community Council Youth Project. It means a great deal because it helps us with our summer project for the young people. And we did a program of 4 weeks, which was an enrichment project for children who were 7 to 12 years old. Also hired some Uniondale youth to be sort of aides and counselors, and it is very greatly appreciated and used well. I have a question about the Walton Avenue and Hempstead Turnpike situation, which is it's on the administrative calendar. I'm sorry, I had another appointment, so I wasn't able to be here for that. Number 33, Nassau Land Developers. Is that opposite the chiropractor? Does anybody know? I'm trying to figure out which is Walton. I think the last one is Cunningham. I know where Manor Parkway is. I think there's Gilroy, but I think Walton is where the chiropractor is.
Commissioner, how do you have
any idea what kind of project is being thought of by Nassau Land Developers?
You can tell us where it is, sir. Come on.
Yes.
I'm sorry, the question was,
Yes, the Walton and Hempstead Turnpike, this last item on the calendar. You have any, is that where the chiropractor is? Trying to figure out which is Walton. I think all the other ones. No, chiropractor. How do you, something or other. So do you have any idea what they're thinking of, it's the land developers?
It's the southeast corner.
It's the southeast corner. Oh, really? So, and it's a private house right now?
You know what, I'll get an answer for you before you don't go on if you have anything else, and I'll let you know.
Thank you. My next comment is about the banner flags. And I think that perhaps it would be wise to revisit the local law prohibiting the banner flags. The purported reason was that they distract drivers, and I don't really see that. Perhaps in some cases they might impinge on vision coming out of a driveway, but I think that could be resolved by restricting the number within a particular space or distance from a driveway or something. They provide a festive atmosphere, and if you feel at some locations, I think about automobile showrooms and used car lots where they have a zillion in one spot. But in an area like ours, where they're in front of some of the strip malls and so on, they do provide a festive kind of look. And personally, I think the banners improve the look of the businesses. I miss them at some of the strip malls and stores in Uniondale.
Well, we do have a law against those.
I know
the entire town.
I know you do, and yet they're all over in various places, and I think the law is it's unnecessary. It should be changed so that it would allow some of those banners. They really are nice. They look nice.
I think one of the issues too was not only the driving aspect, but I think that what was happening in a lot of areas is that there was no maintenance of them. So when someone would buy one, they would put it up, and next thing you know, it's shredded from the wind, and it would be rolling down the street, or not look great for the business. I think that was one of the concerns.
Okay, I think then there are ways to handle that other than totally banning them, because prohibition of, as I say, I think they're festive. I think in an area like ours where we do not have unanimity of storefronts and so on, that they look nice. I do not recall seeing any that were shredded in our area, and I'm sure that could be handled in a different way from banning them entirely. So hopefully you will take that into consideration and modify it in some way. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Gray. Ms. Rory Gordon?
Rory Gordon, Hop, New York. Can somebody hand this up to Mr. Ambrosini?
me?
Yes, please. I just have a question so you have it in front of you. How many flyers have you had your name on similar to that?
I have no idea.
No, like in the last year.
No idea.
Have you had any?
I'm sure I have no idea.
But you have no idea?
I don't keep account.
Are you, well, Mr. Blake is not here, and Ms. Sweeney's not here, and they're not getting the budget. Are you getting the budget to do your promotional things? That's really what I'm asking. I'm sorry?
The budget's here. Yes.
So you've been receiving funds, but Mr. Blakeman and Ms. Sweeney claim that they're not receiving funds. I can't ask them because
I I don't track the number of mailings I get. I don't do that. Councilman Blakeman and Councilman Sweeney may decide to do that. I don't count.
I'm not asking you, do you get a budget for your mailings? That's all I'm asking. If you do your district.
The town board gets a budget for their mailings as a whole.
Where?
Okay.
You should direct it to the senior councilman questions too.
I'm sorry.
She's chairing the meeting.
Okay, Councilwoman, Miss Councilwoman Gooseby, I'm sorry. Was there any particular reason today, well, actually, at the last meeting, you scolded Mr. Ambrosino and Mr. Blakeman for constantly discussing whatever they were discussing over there, but yet you...
I want to interrupt you if I may.
Yes.
I was very rude because I was speaking very loudly during the meeting, and I subsequently apologized. I would not categorize what Councilwoman Goose, Senior Councilwoman Goose did as scolding me. I was inappropriate, and I apologized to her.
That wasn't...
I accepted it.
She accepted it, and we can move on from that.
That wasn't even my point. That wasn't
the great crisis of 2017 has been...
My point is that she's doing the same thing today with Mr. Santino and not paying attention.
Okay,
You did it today. You guys were sitting right there when people were talking. It was no different what those two fellows were doing last week, and you berated them, whatever you want to say. You guys made up and kissed and made up and whatever.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Was there anything else you want to speak? Say.
Well, you're not going to defend yourself for doing the same thing.
Is there anything else you'd like to say?
No, actually there is. Oh, wait. Yes, there is. I'm sure you keep track of how many promotional pieces go out in your district.
Excuse me, anything that you see that has to do with breast cancer, you may not know, but in my district, we have many people who suffer from breast cancer. This is an informational program that I hold each year for them to come.
That's not my question.
Here.
That's not my question.
Well, then I want to hear it in here, please.
Of course.
Are you coming?
Would anybody else ever want to answer questions honestly? You don't know what flyers go out and you just... How are these distributed? Let me ask that.
Did you get one today here? Somebody gave it to you?
Somebody gave it.
That's how it's distributed.
Okay. By how many of these go out for mail?
Excuse me.
They go out to everybody in the district?
Excuse me. When there's a flyer, I think you've seen flyers in neighborhoods, that's what that is. It was not mailed to you, and it was not mailed to the others, and I don't think my staff should have given them out in here. We give them out in the libraries and the supermarkets and so forth, so thank you.
Was that so difficult to answer? You don't have to catch it.
Excuse me, if you're here for something that's really important as business business.
Oh, this is important because the town spends a lot of money on printing. This is really important. That's the point I'm trying to make. I'm not picking on you. I just happen to pick this one up outside today. And I'm trying to get the point across that you spend $5-6 million a year on printing. That's my point. Look at all this stuff. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that I picked up, and I didn't pick up all of them outside. That's my point. And the taxpayers pay for it. That is my point. Thank you.
Thank you. Diane Madden.
I am Madam Hempstead. I'm still getting over your scolding of your staff, Councilwoman Gooseby. And you're just amazing to me because they just were scolded for giving out information that they are permitted to give away in libraries and other places, but why is it that it would be a problem even if they had distributed that flyer here?
I really try to follow the rules, and really and truly didn't want them to put it out here. It's not really appropriate for them to do it. Those are my rules.
Oh, I see. So those are your rules? Mm-hmm. Because that's discriminatory, just to let you know, from this side of the room. Councilman Blakeman is not here, obviously, not sure why, and Councilwoman Sweeney. Any idea, Mr. Robb?
No.
Okay. So my question really was to him, but anyone can answer that. A few meetings ago, he raised an issue that he was never informed. In fact, he tried to inquire about what I describe as the fraudulent and illegal $109,000 behavior contract
and the $30,000 contract, which you pretty much admitted and had to sever, that was so fraudulent. I would like to know if anyone else was given information about that contract, about the behavior contract.
This is public comment. It is not question and answer. If you want to foil a document, you can do that, but this is public comment.
Well, that's not true, because Ambrosino just had an entire conversation and answered many questions about mailers, so it seems you're very selective about when it is question and answer.
They can answer if they want to, but it's public comment.
So my next comment is about the State of the Town event. I noticed that Mr. Pistori was here for that event. Trust me when I tell you, I am very happy. The further he's away from animals, the better off the animals are. But I'm wondering how he found out, since Sweeney and Blakeman didn't know, they weren't invited, how is it that Mr. Pistori was present at a town, State of the Town event? And are we paying that, our tax dollars are paying for him to sit at a State of the Town event?
Next question, please.
Okay. I can understand why you wouldn't answer. And, this is kind of just entertaining for us because you don't really have to worry about me breathing down your necks anymore. I just like to the more I can get on the record, the better off the taxpayers and the animals will be. So you can sit there and not answer any questions. At some point, you're going to have to answer questions. You won't have to answer my questions, but trust me, you'll have to answer some pretty hefty questions. The cats at the landfill, I'm told, even to date, that there are no cats there. What I'd like to know is, because the town claims that there are cats there, have you followed all of the recommendations from the Humane Society of the United States, including their recommendations to create housing? Have you followed all of those recommendations that they made on the landfill? And are all of the cats that were 5 intact, are they spay-neutered right now, that were found to be unsterilized?
Well, have the animal shelter checked, someone will get back to you.
Someone will get back to me. You don't know? We have the director right here. Why is it that the director is sitting in here, in this room, and other people are answering for him? Bring him up here. He should know. He knows right now. How about Mr. Denning?
You have to answer from the town attorney, please respect.
I would like to know if Mr. Denning has that information. Have the cats all been spay-neutered? Have all the houses been made? Have you followed the recommendations from HSUS?
Recommendations have been followed as housing.
Mr. Denning says the answer is yes.
That everything is set and followed through with on the landfill right now? Those houses are there, created, everyone's spay-neutered?
Yes.
Is that correct, Mr.
Yes, everything is directed to the senior councilwoman, and we'll answer if we can.
Okay, so, again, I'm going back to Blakeman. I saw what happened today, and I can imagine how frustrated he is. And I hope that he understands. He made a comment that, Santino's going to have to put up with us another 2 years. That's not true. He and Sweeney have the power to make it so that none of us have to put up with Santino for more than 2 more months. So I hope he gets that message. And I look forward to the budget meeting to find out what council people are informed about the budget and before they vote on it. And I believe that's in about another week or 2. That should be interesting. I look forward to it. So you have 2 weeks to review the entire 2018 budget?
These were given out today.
Well, that didn't really answer my question. So,
Your time is up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next person, Stu Krug. Is Kiari. Stu? Okay. Miss Nina Merriday.
Rita J. Meriden, Baldwin resident. Senior Councilwoman Gooseby, since it's been instructed over and over again from the town attorney, that we're supposed to direct our questions, concerns, since as I'm being informed that this has nothing to do with asking questions and getting answers. My concerns have to do with hearing earlier about New York State funds to the tune of an $8 million contract, if I believe, if I can recall what the town attorney said. That's state funding, and Senior Councilwoman, I would ask possibly if you could find out from the town attorney when I'm going to get that list that I was promised about the contracting and the inclusion of veteran and minority and women-owned businesses. I was told it would take a little time to get that together, even though I'm pretty sure the number is probably 0. So I would like to have that addressed. What was stated earlier, yes, I find it interesting that there is that discussion about full transparency, but there seems to be a selective courtesy with regard to the body. And I would concur because I also witnessed the activity that took place today and the level of disrespect that was afforded Councilwoman King Sweeney when she spoke, when members of her board were having their own private and sidebar and, kind of loud discussions as well. So it's kind of like if you want to preach for the respect that you expect to get from your colleagues, then the colleagues should be able to provide that. And we're talking about these mailings, and I am deeply distressed, and it saddens me that all of those very vocal South Barrett residents have left the building since they were just so, appalled at how town government works. And I told them that this was a quiet day that they were a part of, that there wasn't more with regard to Mr. Mueller's role in questioning selected residents. Who paid for that? Who authorized that? And also receiving this copy of this letter that was sent out to Franklin Square residents when clearly in the statement by Anthony Santino, so it's not fake news, it has the town seal and his name on it. And while I am prohibited from participating in the decision-making process of the Board of Appeals, I personally oppose this application. What's personal about his headline, his title, the town seal, and his signature being on something that clearly, unless I'm mistaken, we pay the mailing and production costs for it. But again, you don't want to discuss it. Fine, we'll keep it moving. I was also just surprised at the discussion, and again, not having the supervisor here to at least either read his messages or look at his phone, so I guess I'm doing better with him not being in the chair, where he says he's reserving the decision to provide more opportunity, when he can offer that to the residents when they're here to make noise. But when those of us who are here on a regular basis who requested additional time on behalf of our representatives, Councilwoman King Sweeney and Councilman Blakeman, who said, let's give more time for residents to be able to weigh in on important issues of a real ethics reform, or maybe asking some of the civic organizations how they feel about possibly having additional night meetings. You all decided right then and there that you could speak for the people. I don't understand that. So again, become selective in terms of what people decide as far as what they're going to do. I also think that the budget process is flawed because, again, the supervisor said on the record that he is the one, he and his executive circle decides how the budget is going to allocate it. And you, as our elected officials, as you have pointed out, specifically, Senior Councilwoman, you just received it today, which is, I believe, October 3rd. So a decision is going to be made that's going to impact all of the residents on paperwork that you're just receiving, and we're not even sure. I mean, I don't see it in Councilwoman King Sweeney's hands or Councilman Blakeman's hands to be assured that they have in fact been included in it. And finally, before my time goes up, but since other people were extended additional time to kind of wrap it up, I just find it amazing that the people who speak the least Councilman Esposito and Councilman Dunn are always the ones featured in these multi-million-dollar mailings. Why is that? I mean, where is that? Is this not a town board that's supposed to be inclusive of everyone? You talk about transparency, you talk about diversity, and you talk about being inclusive of all. I am definitely trying to do that, with all due respect. But you're talking about all of this, but you have all of these pictures that you're prominently featured in, and you have Esposito and Dunn, but you don't have their. I have yet to see a picture of Councilman Blake. I'm no disrespect. Do you even get to be asked for any of these showings if they have these pictures taken? You do? Okay. So I am trying to wrap it up, but I'm just saying.
But you wrap it up.
I am wrapping it up. I'm getting it. So if I can finish my statement, I'll be able to wrap it up.
That's one statement.
Thank you. Okay.
5 seconds.
No, I don't know about 5 seconds.
Okay, but
I'm just saying, I am hoping that we can truly finally have a voice in this budget process with the full inclusion, because your mailings talk about significant savings, but it does not talk about the expenditures, particularly with the supervisor's department. Thank you so very much. Everyone have a pleasant day. I'm trying to end this courteously, even though I'm not receiving that courtesy as a taxpayer.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I've always showed you the courtesy that I think you deserve, and I just want to point out that perhaps you don't think I'm very vocal, but apparently last election, 35,000 people in my district, 62% of them thought that I was vocal for them, so thank you.
That includes the houses where your sign is on and it's still raised and they can't even afford to pay the mortgages.
And all the people you gave jobs to. Excuse me. Go ahead, Billy.
Yes, I really have a question. Rich Regina, attorney for the Board of Appeals, I met with him the other day. He told me that there's case law that states that the town board is prohibited from commingling, whatever the word you want to use, with the Board of Appeals. I've looked a lot. Can anyone steer me in the right direction as to where that law is or what the restrictions are, if there are any written restrictions on town board mingling with the Board of Appeals?
Why don't you make another FOIL request and we'll get it to you?
There's a FOIL request for that? Okay. Because I'm bringing up what me and Meredith brought up as far as the mailing went out regarding your neighborhood, my neighborhood. Apparently, from what I gather, the applicant abided by all the rules. Like you always say, you abide by all the rules of the town of Hempstead, right? Right? That's what you always say. They abided by all the freaking rules, yet Councilman Blakeman and Supervisor Santino took it upon themselves to fan the flames of the idiocy that was published on the telephone poles, against the law, by the way, to ensure that they didn't even get their voices heard. It says here, for mothers and infant children. That's what it says on the sign, which complies with the town law. And Councilman Blakeman brings up the fact that undue burden to our community and school system. Now, I think he knows that infants don't go to our school system. We start at 4 years old. We don't start at 0 months. So it's misleading residents to think of what kind of facility it was. The voices in the letter that Santino said, Franklin Square neighbors deserve transparency and have the right to have their voices heard. Well, that's what the point of the hearing is. That's what the point of the whole hearing is.
Excuse me 1 second. They did have a hearing, but not before this board, it was before the BCA.
I understand. But Councilman Blake, first of all, the hearing, they withdrew their application due to opposition to it, fanned by the flames of Councilman Blakeman and Supervisor Santino, who's supposed to stay neutral and not if he personally opposes it from East Rockaway, he has every right to do so. So let him pay the 50-cent stamp and put his own home address on it and send letters to the residents of Franklin Square that he is concerned about helping homeless mothers and infants, that he thinks that should be in someone else's neighborhood. You know, being charitable to poor people is not an easy thing. Maybe it's easy just to write a check for $100, but it's really difficult to really help. Because, you know, that's what the Bible says, that, you know, help the poor as long as they're in the urban neighborhood, right? That's what it says, but not in our white bread neighborhood. That's the quote right from the Bible somewhere. Because that's what essentially this is saying. Nothing like this is unprecedented, and I believe this is an ethical violation, and that's why I asked you about crossing the line. Supervisor Murray did this in the Billy Dean case, exercising her personal opinion using Town of Hempstead letterhead. It's crossing the line. What do the Board of Appeals listen to? They listen to the people who come to the hearing. If town officials with their $1 million budgets are spreading propaganda, and by the way, nowhere in this does Santino say he opposes housing homeless mothers and infant children. He just categorizes as a dormitory. That's it. Why not say the whole thing what he's against? Because if he's going to spell it out, I personally oppose this application because it houses single mothers and infant children. Why didn't he spell it out? Because that's what he's really opposing. And that's really disgusting. Let him go to the hearing and be heard on the record that he opposes homeless mothers and infant children. Because that's what the truth of this letter is. But he hides it in a general statement at taxpayer expense. There is no transparency in this letter. There is no transparency because it doesn't even have the minimal information required by the town law when you post it on your property.
Mr. Country, for your information, we all received letters from the residents in Franklin Square asking us to write a letter for them. I did not do it, but
I don't care what you receive. You should not be using town letterhead. Well, put the homeless mothers and infant children on the freaking letter.
Thank you.
Put the mothers and the infant children on the letter.
Stop yelling.
No, because you're not saying, this is not telling the truth. This is not telling the truth.
Stop
You
yelling.
are lying.
Okay, you want to go? All right. Sharon and Gerald Eisenberg, are you here? If not, last but not least, Miss Laura Miller.
Okay. Laura Gillen, Rockville Center, New York. So Supervisor Santino is not here, and now Mr. D'Esposito has abandoned the meeting as well. Councilwoman Kuski, I'm wondering if you could tell us, Supervisor Santino likes to talk about how he is in control of the calendar, how he is in control of the meeting, how he scheduled this meeting, and what is so pressing that's more important than listening to the residents during public discussion.
Well, he has, I'm sorry, because he did have a meeting at 2.
Yeah.
He left her late. It's not 3 o'clock. Our meetings don't normally last as long because we've sat here all this time listening to other people. Actually, none of us have had lunch. So this meetings don't normally last this long, and he did have to go to a meeting. So since he's going to a meeting, it leaves me as the senior councilwoman to take over. So I'm here.
I appreciate that, but I think a lot of us haven't had lunch, and a lot of us haven't had meetings.
Well,
it's volumes. I'm wondering, Councilwoman Sweeney indicated this morning that she received a copy of certain financial documents just this morning in relation to the proposed, the tentative budget. Among those were 2016 audited financials. I'm wondering, did all of you receive those 2016 audited financials? Can anybody answer me? You don't know? Councilman D'Esposito, you represent me, I'm your constituent. Did you receive a copy of 2016 audited financials?
I honestly have to look at my office.
Well, there's a packet right there, so maybe you could just look in the packet and see if they're in there.
This is the tentative budget.
Oh, you did? That's the only thing you received in that package, the tentative budget?
It's the tentative budget that I received.
So you don't know if you got the 2016 audited financials?
I have to look at my office.
Okay, I'm going to request that you do that. Councilman Ambrosino, did you receive the 2016?
Controller over here.
Control is there. Yes, we.
The audited financial statements are a product of Albrecht, Vigiani, and Zork, which are our external auditors. It is their document. It is not the town's document. They released the document yesterday. It was on the website. It was PDF to Councilwoman King Sweeney at her request. And as we speak, I expect the physical document to be delivered to my office, at which time I will turn and deliver to all the council members as timely as possible, as we have done in the past. The packet that all the council members got today is the tentative 2018 budget.
Okay, so you said it's on the website. Is it on the Town of Hempstead website?
It was a PDF file. I don't know if it's on the website. Councilwoman Sweeney got it on Friday.
Okay, well, I didn't...
Her request.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I didn't see the audited financials on the Town of Hempstead website.
I'm sorry, it's not on the Town of Hempstead website. There's a clearinghouse that AVZ files with all of its municipalities. I don't know it's on that website. I don't know what the address of that website is.
Okay, well, are you going to be publishing the audited financials on the website?
I don't have the answer to that.
Because I think the public has a right to look at the audited financials. Certainly, we're going to go into budget season. How can you provide any analysis of a proposed budget if you don't have the audited financials and the actual numbers for the past fiscal year that closed?
Again, I don't know the answer to that, whether it's going to be publicized.
Mr. Diaz-Zito, as my representative, I would ask you if you would provide a copy of the audited financials to me, your constituent, so I can review them in order to comment more appropriately at the next meeting.
Sure, I will confer with the town control and make sure we can do that.
Great, thank you.
And obviously, to answer your question from before, I did not receive the financials yet, and actually, Councilwoman Arrington Sweeney did receive it before us.
Okay. So I just, again, reiterate that I think that information is absolutely vital to be provided to the public. I know Mr. Procacci has already foiled it, and he foiled it, I think, in April, so he's been waiting quite a long time for those audited financials, so I don't see any reason why we would delay providing them, at least to him, because he already has a foil in for that. In addition, with respect to mailers, I join Councilwoman King Sweeney in her proposed measures with respect to the sending out of mailers right before an election. And in addition to that, I noticed that at the last board meeting, you may recall that I said that some of the mailers contained information that I believe the SEC might view as materially misleading, because they talk about upgrades and they fail to talk about 3 bond downgrades. I noticed that subsequent to that, on Friday, the town filed a supplemental disclosure with respect to certain bonds on September 28th, a supplemental statement updating the information that was provided in an official statement dated April 5th, saying, upon the heading of ratings in the official statement, the following sentence is added to the end of the 3rd paragraph. Subsequently, on February 2nd, 2017, Moody's downgraded the town's underlying credit rating from AA2 to AA3 and revised the outlook from negative to stable. I think that a supplemental disclosure is also required to the residents, and perhaps you should include that in your next mailer that goes out before Election Day. That's my final comment. I had more comments, but Supervisor Santino was not here.
Okay, good night. Good day.
Sarcasm there?